Pittsburgh, the streaking Pirates take on the New York Mets. The Pittsburgh franchise has a rich tradition. There was Bill Mazeroski's 7th-game homer to win the 1960 World Series. 11 years later, Roberto Clemente led the Pirates to another title as the hero of a Game 7 win over Baltimore. And Willie Stargell was the series MVP in '79 when the Pirates beat the Orioles again. Until recently, though, the 80s have been a bleak period. 3 years ago, the Pirates were the focal point of a major drug scandal, and the fans found better ways to spend their disposable income. But in the fall of '85, Sid Thrift was brought in to rejuvenate this storied franchise, and his acquisition of Andy Van Slyke from St. Louis is one reason the Bucs have surged back. Another is the play of Bobby Bonilla, an emerging star. And tonight, they'll go up against an established star, Dwight Gooden, as the Pirates meet the Mets on ABC's Monday Night Baseball.
Hey, program yearbook!
Hit the ball!
Get ahead!
High in the air to deep left field. A grand slam!
Get a base, Bobby!
And on a beautiful summer's night, the confluence of the Allegheny, Monongahela, and Ohio rivers and the Golden Triangle, and you look at downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Three Rivers Stadium, where they expect a crowd of about 40,000 to look on the first game in a big 3-game series between the Mets and the Pittsburgh Pirates. And we welcome you to Pittsburgh, where there is a true baseball renaissance indeed taking place. I'm Al Michaels, and welcome back to Pittsburgh. We used to come in here very often in the 70s and early 80s for Monday Night Baseball, but it's been a while, and it certainly reflects the fortunes of this team and this franchise. And this was a franchise given up for dead with 1 foot out the door just 3 years ago. But they have turned it around and have done so in a hurry, and they're starting to put a lot of people in the seats, and you do that by winning. And right now, the Pittsburgh Pirates are very much in the thick of things in the National League Eastern Division race. They are only 4.5 games behind the Mets. The Pirates swept a 4-game series at Montreal over the weekend. Those standings reflect today's game at Wrigley Field in Chicago, where the Cubs, who are hot, beat the Phillies by a score of 2-1, so they are only 6.5 games back. Well, the Pittsburgh Pirates have been built through trades, through people that they picked up in the draft who were undrafted free agents. And we're going to take a look at tonight's starting lineup. Rafael Belliard was a non-drafted free agent from the Dominican in 1980. Jose Lean, non-drafted free agent from Puerto Rico. Barry Bonds was a #1 draft choice in 1985, the son of Bobby Bonds. Then the trades in late '85, the deal with the Dodgers that brought Sid Bream. He's at first tonight. Bobby Bonilla was here, went to the White Sox. They got him back. Then the big deal last year with St. Louis. Mike Dunne, tonight's starting pitcher. Mike LaValliere, tonight's starting catcher. And Andy Van Slyke, the starting center fielder, came over in the Tony Pena deal. And Darnell Coles, who played right tonight, came over in the deal for Jim Morrison with Detroit last year. So that is the way at least tonight's starting lineup has been constructed for the red-hot Bucs. And let me turn to Tim McCarver and talk about the Mets. We have a race. It looked 3 weeks ago as if the Mets might turn it into a runaway. It's a whole other story now, especially with the Keith Hernandez situation.
Well, especially since the Mets have only been 12-12 for the month of June. I guess it's the old argument, which is more important, batting average or run production? Well, every baseball player knows that a batting average that leads to run production is the most efficient. Now, the Mets hit .265 as a team for the month of June, but only .244 with runners in scoring position. As Al said, that situation's not going to improve because Keith Hernandez once again on the disabled list. His first time up last Thursday, his second game since coming off the DL. Keith re-injured his right hamstring. He was placed once again on the disabled list, and the Mets are going to sorely miss Keith Hernandez. Like fiber in a diet, Keith is the bulk to the Mets offense. But the one thing the Mets have always had and always will have is good, strong, deep pitching.
We have David Cohn, of course, and Sid Fernandez, who will pitch tomorrow night. The man we'll see tonight in Dwight Gooden. On the subject of pitching, if the Pirates are indeed to remain in it the rest of the way, they'll need good pitching. And Jim Palmer, they have a very interesting young staff.
They certainly do. And the question I get when I got out here to Three River Stadium, everybody says, well, what are the Pirates going to need to contend? And I said, well, maybe another injury like one to Strawberry. But seriously, what they need is to take off where they finished last year. They won 27 out of their last 38 ball games, and the way they did this was consistent pitching. And you depend on your starters. Mike Dunne, who we'll see tonight, last year Rookie of the Year. Brian Fisher, very, very excellent pitcher as a starter. Doug Draven. They've all had problems this year. So the key really is to get those guys back on track. Let John Smiley, a young left-hander who's done an outstanding job, get back on track, and he's pitched very well. And they have a solid bullpen, solid long relievers, and just keep scoring runs and having good defense. Very simple game.
And they go after their 5th win in a row here tonight. The Mets lost 3 out of 4 to Chicago as they come to town with Dwight Gooden going to the mound against Mike Dunne on Monday Night Baseball. ABC's Monday Night Baseball is brought to you by the Heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. By Kellogg's Just Right. No other cereal is just right. By AT&T, the right choice. And by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. How valuable has Keith Hernandez been to the Mets? Well, with him, they are 20 games over 500, and without him, 1 game under. And, of course, they are going to be without him for the better part of the next 2 months, the way it looks. Tonight's lineup for the Mets, Len Dykstra leads off in center. He comes in hitting .313, and Wally Backman has been hot as well, the platooning second baseman. Dave Magadan in Hernandez's spot at first. Darryl Strawberry, as usual, is the cleanup hitter. Kevin McReynolds is in the number 5 spot. Gary Carter does the catching and hits 6th. Howard Johnson is at third base, batting 7th. The rookie shortstop, Kevin Elster, batting in the 8th spot. And on the mound for the Mets is Dwight Gooden. On the mound for the Pittsburgh Pirates is Mike Dunne, last year's Rookie Pitcher of the Year, who came up in early June and wound up winning 13 and losing 6. The inside pitch on Dunne now from Gary Carter.
Mike Dunne has a good sinking fastball, a good breaking ball, a good change of pace, and basically he's a ground ball type pitcher. He has a good delivery toward home plate and keeps the runners close at first.
And Gary Carter and the Mets have Dunne fresh in their memories because he pitched against them last Wednesday. Defensively for the Pittsburgh Pirates tonight, back of Mike Dunne. In the outfield, Barry Bonds, Andy Van Slyke, and Darnell Coles. And then Bobby Bonilla at third, Rafael Belliard at short, Jose Lind at second, Sid Bream at first. Mike Lavalier is back of the plate, and on the mound, Mike Dunne. The umpires, Paul Runge calling the balls and strikes with Bob Engel at first, Charlie Williams at second, Tom Hallion at third. And so on a gorgeous night, with the temperature around 70 degrees and the crowd numbering about 40,000, Len Dykstra to lead things off for the Mets, who come in with a 4.5 game lead. But the Pirates, in the past 4 days, have been able to shave 3 games off that lead as Dykstra grounds one into center field for a base hit. So Len is aboard with a single on the first pitch of the game, and that'll bring up Wally Backman. Backman started the season as the forgotten man. He was almost the dead man when the Mets broke camp with Tim Tuffle playing every day, but Tuffle got hurt. Backman was able to work his way back into the lineup and is in the platoon role once again, as was the case last season.
Yeah, Wally batting only .121 after games of May 18th. And in his last 100 at-bats, he's batting .330.
Dykstra goes. It's grounded to Breen. He has one play as he flips back to Dunne covering for the out. And Dykstra advances to second. Now here, where the Mets have run into trouble in recent times, getting men in from scoring position. They've been doing a great job in terms of statistically maintaining relatively high averages, but getting men in from second and third has been the bugaboo.
Well, that's where they'll miss Keith Hernandez, obviously defensively. But right here, you have a guy that's got a great on-base percentage, hitting .298. Talking about Keith can drive in runs, and if he doesn't drive in the runs, you take a look at Keith, he's going to walk for Strawberry, so they almost have to pitch to him. Magadan, a little bit different type of hitter. Career 300 hitter, but not a Keith Hernandez.
1 out. Each of the first 2 Mets has gone after the first pitch. And Magadan takes low, ball 1. 1-0 the count. Dykstra at second base. 1 gone in the first inning with no score as the Mets visit Pittsburgh for the first time this season. These 2 clubs first faced each other in '88 last week at Shea. And the Mets won 2 out of 3, both shutouts. 2-0 the count.
Mike Dunne, a lot like the pitcher we saw last Monday night in Detroit, Tommy John, where he's got to throw enough strikes to establish his sinker, but he wants to get you to swing at a ball a little bit out of the strike zone. Hard to do when you're 2-0 on a Dave Magadan. He can pretty much look for his pitch right here.
The 2-0 to Magadan is outside, ball 3. On deck is Darryl Strawberry. Dunne facing the Mets for the 4th time in his career, and he is 0-3 with them, and he walks Magadan on 4 pitches.
Magadan thought that ball was a strike. That's why he stood at home plate. He didn't want to take the walk.
Well, it was a strike. It just wasn't called on.
If Mike Dunne doesn't get that pitch, he can't win. He's got to keep the ball down to be effective, and he's got to have the low strike.
Jim Leyland, the manager of the Pirates, watching Dunne trying to extricate himself from this first inning jam with 2 on and 1 out. And Strawberry at the plate, and time is called.
Darryl with 17 walks over his last 16 games, and you pretty much get the game plan. You go into a series like this, you say, if there's anything, we don't want Strawberry to beat you or beat us. But here you don't have much of a choice. Got to pitch to him.
1-0 the count. One thing about Dunne, he knows how to win even when he walks people. He pitched a complete game this year as Lavalier goes to the mound, in which he walked 10. It's the only game he's completed all season long, and it was one of those situations where you pick up the paper the next day, you look at the box score, you see a guy goes 9 innings, picks up a W next to his name, and you figure that's got to be a typo. He walked none or 1. No, he walked 10.
Well, I talked to Ray Miller, the pitching coach here, and you can see right here he's had a lot of problems in the first inning, and of course to have to face Strawberry is a problem in the first inning, but that particular day he pitched around a lot of the Phillies.
You see the second baseman leaned and Belliard playing off the bag. They know Dykstra's not going to run with Strawberry hitting.
To left field and toward the corner, Bonds goes over and he makes the catch, and the runners hold. Strawberry becomes the second out here in the first inning, going the other way. So 2 on and 2 out with no score. And Kevin McReynolds comes to the plate. Indicative of the problems the Mets have had collectively. There it is, 179 in situations such as this. 2 out, man in scoring position. 1-0 the count.
Gary Carter right around 160 with 2 outs, men in scoring position. Howard Johnson 140. Lynn Dykstra 0 for his last 20 with 2 outs and men in scoring position. It's a plague.
2-0 the count. And that's why it can be so deceiving on Sunday when you go down the list of the teams in your Sunday paper, team batting average. Even though you're at the top or close to the top, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're cashing in all that much. McReynolds fouls it back, and the count 2 balls and 1 strike.
Look at Davey Johnson. You got to be pretty happy, though. McReynolds, who's had a huge strike zone along with Gary Carter. There he looks for his pitch. 2-0, had a good swing, not a check swing, but just didn't hit it. And that's the difference a lot of times between being hot and being not. Getting a good pitch to hit and not hitting it.
Three and 1. Gary Carter is on deck with no score in the first inning. Dykstra at second. And Magadan away to his lead at first. 3 and 1. Three and 2 now, and the runners will be going.
Significance of that 2-out base hit lies in the fact that you as the hitter has to do it. You can't leave it up to the next guy. There's no moving the runner along. There's no cheap run, sacrifice fly, infield out, force out. For the most part, you got to get a base hit right now to score a run.
3 and 2, 2 out. The runners will be off and moving in front of this foot-stomping crowd in the first inning. And McReynolds hits a chopper to short. Billiard over to first, and Dunne gets out of the top of the first. After a half, that's nothing. Pirates coming up. Barry Bonds is the leadoff hitter, and then Jose Lean is at second base. Andy Van Slyke leads the league in triples, batting third, and Bobby Bonilla is the switch-hitting cleanup hitter. Darnell Coles getting the start in right field. Sid Bream hits sixth, coming off a hot week. Good road trip for him. Mike Lavalier does the catching. The shortstop is Rafael Billiard. And Mike Dunne batting ninth. Dunne working his way out of a first-inning jam, and he is matched up again with Dwight Gooden, who beat the Bucks last Wednesday. Here's the inside pitch on Dwight from Andy Van Slyke.
Dwight Gooden is a power pitcher with a good curveball and a straight changeup. The biggest key to Dwight Gooden is to make sure you stay off the high fastball. When the fastball is above the belt, it's very, very tough to hit. And he's very tough to beat when he has his breaking ball going. So hopefully tonight he will not have his breaking ball going, be throwing a lot of low fastballs.
Here's that last play. If you remember, the only game won by the Mets in Chicago was a play where Len Dykstra got in a rundown play. He intentionally got in the way of a throw from Vance Law. It hit him in the helmet and bounced around, responsible for 3 runs that the Mets scored in that 6th inning at Wrigley Field. And it looked like Lenny was intentionally trying to get in the way of that ball.
It'll be a lot tougher for him to pull that off the next time.
That's true.
Barry Bonds fouls it back. Bonds going for the downs on the first pitch of the game, a la his dad, Bobby Bonds, who hit 35 leadoff home runs in his career. And Barry has been a hot hitter in leading off games. You saw the graphic, 371 when he leads off the first inning, which is normally every night.
Also 8 leadoff home runs in his short career. I like Andy Van Slyke saying he has a good curveball. I think I'd have to classify Doc Gooden's curveball as great on most nights.
Bonds hits it into shallow right center, and Strawberry comes on and makes the play for the out. So Bonds is retired to start things in the bottom of the first inning, and it will bring up Jose Lean. As we take a look at the Mets defensively, in the absence of Hernandez, starting at first base, they've got Magadan there, and Backman plays second. Kevin Elster is in at short with Howard Johnson at third, and the outfield left to right of McReynolds, Dykstra, and Strawberry. Carter back of the plate, and Gooden working on Jose Lean, who takes a strike. Lean at the moment, and I guess for any subsequent moment this season, is the only player in the majors to have played in every inning in 1988. It's a chopper which Backman can't handle. So Lean gets aboard. It would have been a very tough play even had Wally fielded it cleanly.
Well, he's even playing a couple of steps in. Take a look. It's the city where I live, the Baltimore Chop. Wally is playing shallow. He knows he has to hurry. Lean can run, doesn't come up with it. One of the reasons is because of the overspin. He's coming forward. The ball that right there, a little bit of a bad hop. Of course, he's looking at the runner to see how much time he has. He knows he doesn't have much. I don't know if it went as a base hit. It probably should have.
It does. Infield single, and Andy Van Slyke comes up. He has 11 home runs, and he also has 11 triples. 1-0 the count. Van Slyke, quite in contrast to the Mets, has been far more proficient with men on base than with the bases empty. Leaned away to his lead. Held on by Magadan. Pirates do not do a whole lot of running.
Lean stolen 5, only been thrown out twice. But the one thing about Gooden, 26 attempts, they have stolen 23 bases this year, 20 out of 23 against Carter. You can run on Doc Gooden, one of his few weaknesses.
And they send Lean. He gets a great jump. And Strawberry makes the play and throws back in behind the Magadan for the double play. So a 9-3 DP ends the first with no score.
Pirates welcome.
Hard to believe. Late June, and Darryl Strawberry has just picked up his first assist of the season as Gary Carter starts the second inning. Mike Dunne missing, and the count 1-0. So Strawberry making the catch, and Lean not even taking a look. And then by the time he got back to first base, he's doubled by Strawberry. As Carter pops it up back of third, Bonilla comes over, has a play, makes the catch.
Here's the last play in the bottom of the first inning. Watch Lean. Lean isn't looking until it's too late. If you don't look, then you're prone to falling for the chicanery of the shortstop or second baseman. They'll give you the old decoy. First assist this season for Darryl Strawberry. He's the only right fielder in baseball, as a matter of fact, who had not had an assist until tonight. And that's so unusual because he's got a strong throwing arm.
Oftentimes, an average outfielder or an outfielder with an average arm will have an inordinately high number of assists. And with a good arm, you're liable to have a low assist total because of a reputation. Runners are less prone to run against that arm. But it's still, under these circumstances, it's very, very odd to be almost 3 months into the season to see Strawberry pick up his first assist. Johnson at the plate, 1 ball and no strikes. And now it's even at 1-1.
That's a little split finger fastball. Dunne, basically a sinker ball, curve ball, split finger fastball pitcher, but he has 2 of them. He throws one a little harder than the other. In fact, in the ball game he lost to Gooden the other night, he got in trouble with a couple of them, hung a couple of them for a couple of runs.
1-2.
Pretty good angle to see that split finger fastball. It comes in looking as a fastball and then dips at the last moment. Mike Dunne, an injury in spring training with his rib cage, throws off a stiff left leg, which is unusual. Early in the year, he was kind of hinging his leg. See how he locks that leg and throws over it? Not the way you'd want to tell a youngster to throw, but it works for him. At least it did last year.
2-2 on Johnson.
But he's faced 5 hitters and been behind all of them, so it's not the way he would want to pitch. Doesn't mean you cannot be successful doing that, but to drive a manager and a pitching coach up the wall.
Strikeout number 1 for Mike Dunne. 2 down now. Dunne has retired the last 4, And Elster is the batter.
Almost all pitchers in the Pittsburgh farm system, Major League Club, throw two fastballs, a four-seamer which rises, has a little bit more life, and a sinker. That was the riser. It fooled Howard right by him.
So 2 gone in the second inning with the bases empty. No score. And Elster the batter. Breaking pitch for a strike, 0-1. The Mets of late have been going with Mazzilli at first, Johnson at shortstop, and Magadan at third against right-handers. But Davey Johnson tonight, Tim, I think opting maybe for the better defensive infield.
They had a poor defensive 6th inning against the Cubs yesterday at Wrigley Field. The Cubs winning 6-3. And the first baseman Mazzilli and Dave Magadan involved in that were also catcher Mackey Sasser. So Davey back to the normal opening day lineup of the Mets, excluding, of course, Keith Hernandez. There's Maz. Lee Mazzilli looking over the charts that the club has on the Pirate pitchers, that the Met club has on the Pirate pitchers.
2-2.
And that chart will show velocity, frequency of breaking ball, what the breaking ball may be. If there's some pitchers, obviously, with a curveball and a slider, what kind of changeup they have.
Frankly, I think he's reading Elmore Leonard's latest novel. Three and 2 the count. By the way, the RSC, Richard Caligiuri, the late mayor of Pittsburgh, a man very instrumental in keeping the Pirates in town and in the resurgence of this city, is memorialized with the initials as Elster takes ball 4.
And I'll tell you what, you always go back to the 2-2 pitch he throws. Elster's hitting 204, a curveball with a pitcher coming up. If you have your druthers, you want Gooden leading off next inning. You have to make Elster hit the pitch in that situation. He doesn't do it, and this is where this guy's nickname was the Iceman. He was so cool. He was rookie pitcher of the year last year. As you take a look at Dwight Gooden, who has been rookie pitcher of the year back in 85? 84, excuse me.
Cy Young in 85. Strike, 0-1.
It's amazing that he has been, this is his 5th year in the big leagues. He's accomplished so many things. You lose track of the years when Dwight Gooden is out on the mound.
Gooden, a good hitter, and the Mets collectively a good hitting pitching staff. Breaks his bat and squibs it down to short, and Belliard on the run throws him out. At the end of an inning and a half, no score in Pittsburgh. Out of a full moon on a gorgeous night in Pittsburgh. Bobby Bonilla to lead off, bottom of the second. Bucks got hot at the end last year, and I asked Bobby if it carried over.
Yeah, we had a very good feeling because when at the end of last year, nobody really wanted to go home. It was a feeling of, man, we sort of accomplished something. We've learned how to win. I guess that was the key. We had guys coming out of the bullpen doing the job. We had some timely hitting. It was a lot of fun being there. We really didn't want to go home. So, and the anticipation for spring training was a long one because everybody really wanted to get there. Once we got there, we worked on the fundamental things, and it's been a positive first half of the '88 season.
And Bonilla, the switch hitter, to lead off in the bottom of the second inning, facing Dwight Gooden. 1-0 the count. Things really did come together for this team over the last 6 to 8 weeks of '87. They were able to vault into a 4th-place tie with Philadelphia at the finish, and they have picked right up where they left off and have done it with basically a revamped ball club. Toward the end last year, they decided, no, it's the time to bring Leaned up as looped into shallow center field, and going out is Elster to make the catch, 1 away. So they brought Leaned up and sent Johnny Ray over to California. They were able to send Rick Russell to San Francisco, and they went out west to pick up Robinson and got as well in deals with the Giants. And things have turned around very, very quickly. This afternoon at Wrigley Field, Rick Sutcliffe wins it. Shane Rawley loses it. Al Nipper picks up his first save. Sean Dunston home run number 8 as the Cubs beat the Phillies, and at the moment trail the Mets by 6.5. Coles fouls it back 0-1.
So their short man is Al Nipper over in Chicago. You know, it's interesting with the kind of stuff that he has, he may be more effective. Sinker baller, Wrigley Field, where it's better to throw grounders normally than fly balls.
One hopper to Johnson at third, and Howard guns him down, so Coles is out number 2 in the second inning. And with the bases empty, up comes last week's co-player of the week, so named today, Sid Bream, who shares that honor with the Giants' Will Clark.
When you look at the Chicago Cubs, you mentioned the Cubs, Al Nipper just off the DL. Les Lancaster, their normal short right-handed reliever, but the bullpen really the only thing that the Cubs are lacking. And when you talk about left-handed relievers with John Smiley starting, that may be the only thing the Pirates are lacking too.
Right now, the Pirates have 2 guys who can close in Jeff Robinson and Jim Gott, but both are right-handed. 2 out, bases empty, and Sid Bream, who's been very hot, not only last week, but for about 3 weeks now. And to illustrate how hot over the past 7 days, only John Shelby had a higher average in the National League. And there's Barry Bonds, who hit .387 on the recent road trip. Jim Leland had a little talk with Bream, and he said, hey, look, I need more productivity from you, about 3 weeks ago. And since that time, and there is Leland, Bream has produced and has lifted his average up over the 300 figure.
Pretty solid hitter. Better low than high. Talking about the pitch he'd rather hit, but of course when you get Gooden ahead 1 and 2, you pretty much have to look for the baseball. And what makes Gooden so tough is that his fastball and his curveball are just about equal. They're both outstanding.
Still a ball and 2 strikes on Sid Bream.
I get the feeling, Tim, and you see Doc Gooden pitch a lot more than I do, is that he has to get in a rhythm. Big, high leg kick. It's been hit fairly hard the first 2 innings, but a couple balls right at him. He gets stronger usually as the game progresses.
Well, he's adjusted. He's throwing more breaking balls now in the early part of the game and more fastballs later. In the early part of his career, it was just the opposite. He used to throw more fastballs, and hitters, as you heard Andy Van Slyke on the inside pitch talk about, they couldn't lay off the high fastball. As the National League hitters begin to lay off of it, he threw more breaking balls early. There's another one.
Still 2 and 2.
What's amazing is that, of course, he's not striking out as many people as he did early in his career. 88 in 120 innings, which is not shabby, but his control impeccable. 2 walks per 9 innings, which is amazing for a power pitcher. You got to go over to Boston to look at Roger Clemens before you find somebody with that kind of power and control.
Breaking pitch gets Green, and Gooden picks up his first strikeout. We'll go to the 3rd. The Mets and the Pirates, no score. Before the game, I asked Mets manager Davey Johnson how he would sum up the 1988 Pittsburgh Pirates.
A nuisance. No, they have a fine ball club. They have a lot of up-and-coming young stars, and certainly a couple, 2 or 3 of them are really having career years right now, and but they'll taper off.
Honest man.
Was he serious, though? I tell you what,
Davey has never minced his words.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, add a little fuel to the fire.
Well, this is a perfect time, and you talked about Keith Hernandez's injury. He means a lot to the Mets, and if the Pirates are going to play well, not a bad time to do it. Not just this 3-game series, but just over the next month.
3rd inning, no score. Len Dykstra to lead off. Dykstra, Backman, and Magadan. The Pirates are in a tough little stretch here. They are home right now. They've just come in off the road, but they'll go right back on the road out to the West Coast this weekend. And that will take them right up to the All-Star break. Jose Lean gathers it in over to Breen. We're out number 1 in the 3rd inning.
See all the foot movement of Len Dykstra in the batter's box. He says that he has that type of foot movement when he tries to hit the ball by the drawn-in third baseman. Look at all the foot movement he has. Most hitters will wheel off of their back foot. Lenny steps up twice with his left foot and his right foot. He ends up pulling the ball, but what he wanted to do was slap it by Bonilla, who was closed in at third. Very unusual hitter, Lenny.
Backman takes low.
Very unusual haircut, too.
Yeah, I was going to say, unusual is a good adjective for Dykstra, and not just in regard to his hitting.
Well, he pumped all that iron, and last year he hit 10 home runs. This year only 3, so that hasn't helped, but he's hitting for a high average.
2-0 the count.
And New York Delicatessen is holding a Len Dykstra look-alike contest July 6th.
I understand you are one of the judges?
I am one of the judges with a guy named Cousin Brucey. Cousin Brucey is a radio disc jockey in New York. Very strange event. But fun.
You'll be checked at the door, right? On the way in. 3-0 the count on Backman. And Wally takes outside for ball 4. So that's 3 walks now issued by Dunne in 2 in the 3rd innings, and we'll update the National League scoreboard for you. This afternoon at Wrigley, the Cubs won it 2-1. San Diego leads Cincinnati. The Reds are really reeling. 7-0 2nd inning. Giants lead Atlanta 5-3 in the 3rd. L.A. Houston, no score in the 2nd, and Montreal and St. Louis are just getting underway at Busch Stadium. Backman scrambles back. Wally at first base with 1 out, and Magadan at the plate. Magadan walked in the 1st inning.
You talked about the 3 walks that Mike Dunne has. I look at Paul Runke, who's behind home plate. He is not exactly a pitcher's umpire tonight. He's making Mike Dunne throw the ball over the plate. Very small strike zone, good hitter's zone. Of course, Mike Dunne is not helping things by starting out by being behind just about every hitter on the New York Met team tonight.
That's a good point, Jim, because that would favor a guy like Gooden, who can overpower you, than it would a guy like Dunne, who has to be very fine.
Well, Gooden's one of the few guys that can pitch within the strike zone. He does not have to get ahead and then throw balls. He can get behind 2-0, not what he'd like to do, but do that and still be effective. Dunne has to get ahead, something he hasn't done, and then expand the strike zone, or at least have the hitter do that.
Backman at first with 1 out, no score, 3rd inning.
Wally does not run like he used to. Hamstring pulls over the last couple of years. Also, Dunne, very effective. He's about 6'3", but he has what they call a slide step. In other words, he goes right to home. LaValliere, one of the outstanding throwing catchers, not only this year, but last year. So to steal, you got to get a big jump. You're not going to get it off Dunne.
In there, and the count is 1-1.
I guess the reason that Dunne is throwing to first base so much is because of the possibility of a hit and run. Magadan, a contact hitter. And Backman, as you said, not as fast as he was, but you don't have to be fast to be the runner in a hit-and-run play. That's not the purpose behind it. If you were fast, you'd steal the base.
Here's that quick move to first base. Again, that is something that a base runner has to be conscious of. You give your catcher a better chance the closer he is. But also, the most important thing for a pitcher is how quickly you can get the ball to the catcher, especially if you have a guy like LaValliere with a quick release and an accurate arm. Watch his left leg. Very, very low leg kick.
2-1 on Magadan.
Ideal situation for the hit and run. And you know, you hear a lot of baseball people say that one of the reasons you hit and run is to stay out of the double play. That might be an aside, but that's a negative approach to a good play. The reason you hit and run is to get runners at first and third, so you can give the next hitter a chance to drive in the run with something other than a base hit. staying out of the double play. Negative kickback on that play.
2-2. And sometimes, as was the case with the Pirates in the first inning, you can hit and run yourself into a double play on a fly to right. Two and two the count. And Backman leads time. Crowd, and it's a good-sized one here in Pittsburgh with a wave.
It's an early wave, isn't it?
Very early wave.
Surf's up.
Yeah. But let's face it, when the wave came into vogue, people stopped showing up for Pirates games, so they haven't had the chance to perform the wave here that much through the years. There goes Backman, and the pitch is wrapped into center field for a base hit, and Wally, despite going, stops at second and just does get back. So on a hit and run, they get the base hit, but Backman winds up only at second anyway.
Take a look with Wally Backman, and he does what you should. He sees where the ball is going. And also, he knows that Van Slyke, one of the best all-around center fielders, and you don't get thrown out at third base with Darryl Strawberry coming up to home plate. Stay where you are. Now, if that ball's hit to the right or left of Van Slyke, he'll go into third base. Good base running. And contrary to what we saw with Jose Lean earlier, where he did not pick up the ball till it was too late.
So Strawberry now, who flied to left field in the first inning. And there it is, 164 with runners in scoring position. It's an epidemic with the Mets. 0-1.
Little split-fingered fastball. Watch it drop. You see it tumble. Big slow motion camera. You see the ball, almost the spin is non-existent. Tumbles down out of the strike zone.
To left field. And Barry Bonds takes care of it. And that's another 7 in the scorebook next to the name of Strawberry. So again, Darryl fails with a man in scoring position. 2 down with 2 on. And they leave it up to Kevin McReynolds, who came up in a similar situation in the first inning and grounded to short.
I think what you said early in the ball game and in the opening, Timmy, about opportune hitting, something the Mets have lacked, is also true about pitching. Mike Dunne has struggled, but he has made the opportune pitch at the right time. He's got Strawberry out and also McReynolds back in the first. Seems like he's pitching better to Darryl Strawberry, something that the National League has had a big problem doing this year.
Dunne, a member of the Olympic team in 1984. He was the other guy in that deal, the 3-for-1 deal, April 1st of '87, the Pirates and the Cardinals. And the consensus that day when the deal was made is, uh-oh, that just won the pennant for St. Louis. As McReynolds hits a looper into left field for a base hit. Rounding third is Backman, and he will score, and the Mets lead it 1-0. So Kevin McReynolds delivers with 2 out and 2 on. His 35th run batted in, and the Mets are on top.
Looks like it's a little split finger again. McReynolds pulls off it, but he is so strong. Only 8 home runs this year, 29 last year, but still able to drive it over Belliard's head at shortstop.
That was a good shot from the low first camera. It showed Kevin commit on the swing, but he had his hands back. He had something left with which to hit, and that's one of the keys. If you're fooled and your hands are back, then you still got some authority to hit the ball with.
Now Carter swinging and missing. Just to follow up on that Dunne trade last year when it was made, with Tony Pena going to St. Louis, that was the missing piece for the Cardinals. Well, sure enough, the Cardinals went on to win a pennant, even though Pena had a bad year. And on the other side, of course, the Pirates, well, that deal looks like it's the deal of the decade here. LaValliere, Van Slyke, and Dunne.
Of course, the contrary to Kevin McReynolds. Now look at his left shoulder go. His hands go with it, and he can't stay back on the breaking ball. And this is why Gary has been struggling over the last month, not with base hits, but with home runs. He hasn't hit a home run in, what, the last 30 days.
He's had one since April 26th.
No balls, 2 strikes with 2 out. And Carter gets hit by the pitch. And on an 0-2 pitch, fires his bat down. And in agony, walks down to first base. The Mets, of course, have been involved 2 times in the last 3 days in bench clearing incidents in Chicago.
The last thing you want to do 0-2, but you do want to establish the inside part of the plate to maybe eventually go away. Mike Dunne does this, but in trying to do that, hits Gary Carter with an 0-2 pitch, which is a no-no.
Yeah, you want to knock him back, not down. And Gary is hurting. It appeared to hit his left elbow. You can almost see the swelling in the left elbow there.
Bill Robinson over there to console him. And with Carter at first base, and Bill now calling for the trainer.
Right on the corner, right on the elbow. Gary was hit on that same spot about 10 days ago. He hasn't healed from the original plunking.
Well, just imagine if you ever put your elbow down on the table, even though you're not supposed to do that, and you bump your elbow, you know how many nerves run through that area. Then you get hit with a pitch, whether it's 75 or 90 miles per hour, it's got to be rather painful. This is what makes catching job so difficult. Not only does he have to do that, he has to go back and now catch Doc Gooden, throwing about 92 miles per hour for the next 6 innings.
I've never understood why they call that area the funny bone. There is nothing funny about that.
Well, when it comes to elbows, of course, Tim, we defer to Jim Palmer, the man who discovered the ulnar nerve.
I think actually that's the median nerve, Al. Not that you don't have one in both elbows.
Who was it, Weaver, who gave you the credit for discovering?
Who was it? You hesitated when you thought of Earl.
The ulnar nerve.
The only man you ever worked with that was shorter than you.
Now, wait a second.
Oh, sorry, Jim McKay. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, well, you're making a lot of friends tonight.
Oh, great broadcaster, Jim McKay.
Howard Johnson. It's too late, Jim. Strike to Johnson, 0-1.
Well, you know this very quite well. You can be a great broadcaster and be short. So now let's get back to Howard.
Jimmy, how is Palmer getting home tonight?
I'm staying out of this.
Nice to be back in Pittsburgh. I lost 2 World Series here.
0-1 on Johnson, who hits a grounder to short. And Belliard goes to lean for the out, and the inning is over, so Dunne escapes further trouble. But the Mets take the lead in the 3rd, 1-0. And Dodger Stadium next Monday, the red-hot Dodgers, who are in Houston tonight, coming off a sweep of the Cincinnati Reds over the weekend. And the Cardinals, who have had every opportunity to get back into the race with the Mets stumbling around here over the past couple of weeks. But St. Louis can't get it together either, as Gary Carter tries to get it together for the bottom of the 3rd inning.
Well, Danny Cox comes off the disabled list today. Bob Horner is apparently supposed to have arthroscopic surgery, may be lost for a couple of weeks for the remainder of the season for the Cardinals.
Other scores in the American League: Boston leading Cleveland 4-1 in the 4th inning. Baltimore, home runs by Traber and Shue, leading Toronto in the 5th, 4-0. Tigers at Yankee Stadium leading New York 3-0 in the 5th. Minnesota sweeping Oakland yesterday, only 4 back, leading the Angels 2-0 in the 3rd. Chicago and KC just getting underway. Texas, Seattle, Milwaukee, Oakland shortly. Well, not really shortly, in about an hour and a half, I guess. Speaking of the swelling, and we watched that puff up when he was at first base. There it is.
See the stitches.
6 minutes later. Yeah.
Look at the stitches of the ball on the elbow.
LaValliere swinging and foul tipping it at the plate. That's an amazing shot. The There it is, the stitching of the ball right there. 0-1 on Lavalier, who whacks it foul down the line, and the count 0-2. Lavalier, along with Van Slyke and Dunne in that Pena deal, and he's done a great job for them back of the plate. A more than respectable job hitting his average down to 256. He's been in a slump, but he had a 2-run double in the 10th inning yesterday, and their 3-0 win at Montreal. Gold Glove winner last year. 1-2.
Hitting 300, hitting the ball where it's pitched. Only one home run the entire season. Said he could hit more, but he probably hit 190. Said, yeah, I could hit 10 or 15, but then I'd drop my average about 110 points.
Well, it was Lavalier who said I went from being a pull hitter with no power to a spray hitter with no power.
You really have to give Lavalier credit, because when he was a minor league catcher with the Philadelphia Phillies, I understand that the Phillies thought so highly of him as far as the way he thought about the game and handled pitchers that they wanted to make a minor league manager out of him. He said, no, I want to continue playing. I want to give it my shot and then worry about managing.
Little squiver foul, still 2-2, which reminds me of the Doug Jones story. Jones with Cleveland with 14 consecutive saves and as many opportunities to establish a big league mark over the weekend. They wanted Doug Jones to become a minor league pitching instructor. And he decided to stick around, and now it's really paying off for him and Cleveland.
So one thing about scouting, you can see the talent, you just can't see the heart.
Just off the plate. 3-2. Lavalier, Belliard, and Dunne. Bottom of the third inning, 1-0 Mets. Dwight Gooden, who is 8-1 lifetime against the Pirates. And Lavalier draws the walk. First given up by Gooden tonight, and it will bring up Belliard.
One of the constants in Dwight Gooden's motion, whether runners are on base or from the normal windup, you see the high leg kicks, which makes it, with runners on, so easy to steal against him. Just takes a little bit longer to get the ball to home plate, but that is where he gets his power. Drives off his right legs, the high leg kick with his left, and then you see a great curveball or a good fastball.
Now Rafael Belliard, the Pirate shortstop, looks at a strike. We mentioned Gooden, 8-1 against the Bucks lifetime. That one loss last September, and that came on the heels of Gooden being quoted as calling the Pirates, as I recall, a bunch of little leaguers. That's unusual in and of itself, yes, because you don't find Gooden involved in very many controversial situations as you look at the signs from third base coach Gene Lamont.
When you consider that he has been 83-29 in his brief major league career, you never hear him mouth off. I mean, he's a very humble, talented young man.
That, by the way, is the best winning percentage since 1900. The best for pitchers with over 100 decisions.
There it is, and when you win that many, you're winning close to 3 out of every 4 decisions. Spud Chandler and Whitey Ford and Don Gullett on the list, and of course 300-game winner Lefty Grove.
Don Gullett, kind of a surprise on that list, right? 59 games over 500.
But of course, if you remember Gullett, and you do, you faced him so many times, there was a guy who, had he stayed healthy, you don't want to say a guy could have been in Cooperstown, but he did have that kind of stuff early in his career.
And he played for some outstanding Cincinnati ball clubs, which also helps. I mean, defense, runs, doesn't hurt a pitcher too much. You get to it both times. I mean, you got to consider yourself pretty lucky.
But stymied by arm trouble throughout his career. 2-2 on Belliard. The New York Mets things going so well about 3 weeks ago. Then the Hernandez injury. A 5-game losing streak. They snapped that and swept the series from the Cardinals, but went back on the road and are staggering on this trip.
Yeah, they've lost their last 8 out of 9 road games, as a matter of fact. Their last 5 on their last road trip and 3 out of 4 to begin this one against the Chicago Cubs.
Of course, when you miss Keith Hernandez, it's like somebody opening up your hood, taking your distributor wires, there's 8 of them, and pulling 2 off, because he means that much to the ball club defensively as a pitching coach out on the field.
Grounded down to Backman. He goes to Elster for 1, back to first, double play. Rafael Belliard hits into a 4-6-3 double play. And there are 2 down now in the 3rd inning with the bases empty and the pitcher Dunne coming up.
Well, those situations, even if you start the runner, they're going to play him to the right side. He's just hit 5 consecutive balls over there. Easy double play, as you see Backman's throw to Elster and then the strong throw to first to double him up.
Now Dunne takes outside. The Pirates were shut out twice by the Mets last week. Darling did it on Tuesday night, and then Gooden went 8, and McDowell and Myers came out of the bullpen to wrap up the shutout Wednesday. And now tonight they haven't scored with 2 out here in the 3rd. 22 consecutive scoreless innings for the Bucks against the Mets. Two and 1 the count. The Pittsburgh Pirates, dead last 2 years ago, rallied to finish in a tie for 4th last year, and now 4.5 back in the East as we start play tonight. 2 and 2.
Here the Pirates competing with the Mets, and 2 years ago the Mets won 17 of 18 games against Pittsburgh.
In the air to left field, fading on it, McReynolds, and he makes the catch to retire the side. 3 full gone in Pittsburgh. 1-0 Mets.
Well, Gary Carter having his left elbow iced down because of the swelling in his left elbow. Should Carter not continue to play, and with his left elbow being hurt and injured, he'll probably continue, but as you can see, Mackey Sasser has some swelling of his own in his right cheek. He'll be the catcher. I don't think Mackey was hit there, however.
There is Sasser at the ready, bat in hand, as Elster takes outside, and Sasser went to spring training with the Pirates and then went to the Mets in a spring deal. 4th inning, Mets on top, 1-0. Elster at the plate in the count, 1-1. Elster, Gooden, and in the top of the order, Dykstra, the 8, 9, and 1 hitters against Mike Dunne.
A better idea of what Mike Dunne went through last year. 13-6, rookie pitcher of the year. Once faced 61 consecutive batters without a K, no strikeouts, so he doesn't have to strike you out to be effective.
Popped up, Green calls for it, and then he gives way to Leand, and Jose puts it away. Elster gone for the first out in the 4th inning, and it will bring up Dwight Gooden.
What I find so intriguing about baseball, you wonder if maybe he's experienced the sophomore jinx, or is he just experiencing a year where he wasn't healthy? He had the injury, and he has to overcome that. And looking at a guy that's overcome a lot of things, amazing thing to me is that Gooden has not had any serious injuries, other than the drug rehab, been relatively free.
Line to center field, and Van Slyke comes in and makes the catch on the run. 2 down. Well, the Mets are very protective of Dwight Gooden, and wouldn't you be?
In fact, Davey Johnson talks about being protective of all his pitchers because, and he also tries to get him not to throw 100%. In other words, don't throw as hard as you can. Locate the ball. Don't throw that hard, but just spot the ball, make good pitches, and versus just trying to throw as hard as you can.
Well, last week was a perfect example of Johnson being protective of Gooden. He was working on a shutout, but the temperature was in the mid-90s in New York. He'd thrown, I guess, around 110 or 115 pitches. And Davey went right to the bullpen to start the 9th inning. Shutout or no shutout. Dykstra takes a strike and the count 0-1.
It's an amazing bullpen the Mets do have. Myers, McDowell. Makes it a little bit easier when you can take a Gooden out and not face the second guessers when you have some quality right-handers and left-handers out there.
Well, you're still going to face the second guessers because he took Sid Fernandez out of that game 2.5 weeks ago in Montreal, and it blew up on him.
Of course, as we talked about the next night, Randy Myers was going so well at the time as you take a look at the Mets bullpen. It's like last week when they pitch around Strawberry to McReynolds, he hits a grand slam. Jim Leland said, "I'd do it again because you don't want Strawberry to beat you."
Dykstra hits it slowly down to second, and Lean throws him out. And Mike Dunne has his first 1-2-3 inning after 3.5. Still 1-0 Mets. Three River Stadium in Pittsburgh. Big battle in the National League East between the Mets and the Pittsburgh Pirates as they begin a 3-game series. You may have read about the incident yesterday in St. Louis with Von Hayes throwing his helmet. It hit Lee Elia, the Philly manager, and this was the ensuing scene with John Vukovic trying to help break it up, and Vukovic was subsequently thrown out by Lee Wire, the plate umpire. Vukovic contending that Wire was mocking the whole scene.
Tough enough to keep order on the field. Can you imagine an umpire trying to have to go into the dugout to break up fights?
Now, you try to throw your helmet. I mean, you know it's not reasonable to do so, and a lot of times you end up hitting somebody. You don't try to do it.
And you feel like a fool when it happens.
California Angels put a punching bag in the dugout. I think that's a good idea. Put a padded wall. Let them go in and just beat the wall for a couple of outs, and then come on out, and everything will be all right. Nobody will get mad.
I guarantee you there'll be more action in Tyson Spinks later tonight than you saw in the dugout yesterday in St. Louis. 1-1 on Barry Bonds. You saw the graphic with 13 solo homers and only one with a man on. And that leads, of course, to that very odd combination. 14 home runs and 25 runs batted in, something you'll almost never see in that proportion. Bobbin for the apple. To center field, and Dykstra camps under it, and that takes care of Bonds. 1 out in the 4th inning. Gooden has faced the minimum 10 to this point. He's given up a single and a walk, but both base runners erased on double plays. The Bislett International Track and Field meet featuring the Dream Mile from Oslo live and the Firecracker 400 from Daytona Beach this Saturday at 4 o'clock on ABC's Wide World of Sports. 2-hour edition and a special time, 4 Eastern and Pacific, 3 Central. Jose Lean, when they traded Johnny Ray to the Angels last year, they brought Lean up, put him in the lineup, and he has not come out of the lineup for 1 inning since. And I started to mention before, he's the only player in the majors to have played every inning this season. Grounded toward the middle and by Backman out into center field. Lean is 2 for 2. He has the only 2 hits off Gooden. And Backman, angry with himself, thought he should have come up with it.
Well, if Lean was playing second base instead of hitting, he would have come up with that ball. Great range. Wally Backman, as we've said. See him try to backhand it. No, the only way he can do it makes a dive. But with his range, which is a lot more limited than Jose Lean, he's not usually going to come up with that play. And even if he does, he can't turn around and get a speedy runner like Lean.
Andy Van Slyke. He flied to Strawberry in the 1st inning on the hit and run, and then Lean was doubled at first. Popped up, and that one will drift back out of play. 0-1.
Well, it's interesting to me that when Dwight Gooden had that outstanding year back in 1985, 24-4, 153 ERA, 276 innings pitched, 260. As we take a look at the brace on Gary Carter, you look at Gooden and everybody's comparing him to that. And Andy Van Slyke talked about that changeup that he throws. He very rarely throws it. Goes with either the curveball or the fastball.
He hasn't thrown it yet tonight. He's stuck with the fastball and curveball.
It's almost like the next year he didn't know when to throw it. And when he did, everybody would say, why don't you stay with your two best pitches? This stage in his career, he's so overpowering with either one of the two that you're almost doing the hitter a favor. In fact, you are doing the hitter a favor by throwing that changeup.
The pitch out, he's not going.
Well, Timmy, you know better than I do. Excuse me, Al. When you pitch out, you got to give the base runner a similar look. That was totally contrary from his normal windup. Lean saw that, and he stays at first base.
I don't think he was running anyway, but that's exactly right. You want him to run, and you try to take the same move that you would make when you're not pitching out.
And all you do is give the catcher a little bit better throw out away from the hitter that he has an opportunity to throw the base runner out. As we said, 26 attempts against Gooden, or against Gooden, 23 of them successful. 20 out of 23 against Carter and Gooden.
There he goes, gets a good jump, pitches outside, and Carter doesn't have a prayer.
That was a perfect throw. Good pitch to run on. Slow curveball.
Slow curve, 2-1 count, and following a pitch out. Ideal.
Another look at the high leg kick. Gives you more time as a runner. Lean takes a look. Carter makes a good throw. Way late. Not a prayer.
That is the 101st stolen base against the Mets, and that's the most in the major leagues. Hard to believe that the team with the best record in the major leagues also has the most stolen bases against them.
And the Mets are first in earned run average. They've committed the fewest errors, first in home runs, at or near the top in almost every category, and dead last in only that one area. The count, one out, Lean at second, and it's hit down the line, and it is a fair ball, a ground rule double, and it ties the game.
You can't hit the pitch he hit without looking for it. There's no way. That ball's on the ground.
Well, on the inside pitch, he talked about he wanted a low fastball. He doesn't get that, but he gets a low curveball down and in. Probably trying to defend the plate with 2 strikes. Look where it is. With one hand, throws his bat at it. And look where it lands. McEnroe would probably dispute this ball. Just inside the line for a ground rule double.
No way you can hit that curveball unless you're looking for it.
Now Bobby Bonilla. It's a drive to deep left field. McReynolds turns, goes back, makes the catch against the fence. Kevin went one way, then the other, and had time to recover to pull it in. And Van Slyke remains at second with 2 down.
High fastball, and as you said, Al, McReynolds had turned to his left, and now he turns back to his right. He does things so smoothly in left field that it's so deceptive because he does things very quickly out there, but you don't think they're that quick. He's a big man that moves with the grace of a small man.
So McReynolds hauls in Bonilla's long drive, and Coles is the batter. Coles grounded out in the second inning. 2 out, a 1-1 tie in the fourth, and Coles ripped it to deep left, but foul. Foul by plenty. Well back out of play.
That's also a pitch you can't hit hard unless you're looking for. So the Pirates are gauging Gooden a little bit better than they did the first time around.
What you said so early riding out the car today was that when you look at Dwight Gooden, he's thrown 5 home runs, 4 to right-handed hitters. He has had trouble all year getting the ball away, especially down. That ball's up and in. Coles, who had 20 home runs with the Tigers back in '86, leaned all over it. Now, this guy's a pretty good high ball hitter. So he may look for that pitch and try to swing at the ball out of the strike zone.
Popped up. Shallow left center field. Calling for it is Dykstra. And the fourth inning is over, but the Bucks tie it up on a double by Van Slyke. 1-1 after 4. Back after this message and news headlines from our local station.
Between innings, Andy Van Slyke going out to his position, stopped to talk to Jose Lean. See, when you get a lot of hits, that's what guys like to do. They like to talk about it. If they were on an error and a ball goes through an infielder's legs or something, they don't talk. They just go to their position. You get a couple of hits, Jose, nice going. Says Andy, good hitting. No curveball.
And they were responsible for tying the game on a single and a steal by Lind and a double by Van Slyke. Wally Backman starting the fifth inning. He's grounded out and drawn a walk. Backman hitting .287. Backman, Magadan, and Strawberry. 1-1 in the fifth. 2-0 the count. Bob Ojeda. Ojeda. 3-1 the count.
Dunne told me before the game, of course, he went to Bradley University in Peoria. His college coach, Dewey Calmer, said was very instrumental in his career.
High drive to right center field, and that's deep for Backman as Van Slyke makes the catch.
Dunne was also telling me about Van Slyke, routine play, but Mike was telling me also about a guy named Rene Latchman, who taught him how to throw the slider. Rene was the pitching coach for the Class A California Angels team in Peoria. And Mike was a pitcher at Bradley, and Rene Latchman taught him how to throw the slider. Before that, he just had the fastball. Didn't have a breaking ball, and then he signed with the Cardinals, and Darrell Knowles, the left-hander, used to be with Oakland in his heyday, taught him how to throw the split-finger fastball. A lot of guys responsible for Mike Dunne's success.
Sid Thrift got him over here.
Yep.
It's just an amazing story.
One and one on Magadan.
I'll tell you, and Sid Thrift may not have been able to get him anywhere, nor would the Cardinals, for in February of 1987, he had a very serious automobile accident.
That's hit off the hands into shallow right field. Coles coming on tentatively, but makes the play. Magadan becomes out number 2.
Had a lot of trouble when he played with the Tigers at third base. Says it's easier to play right field, or the outfield in general. Shows you right there. Didn't see it well off the bat, but outran it and made the easy catch.
Just to put a capper on that story, in that accident, Mike Dunne had over 300 stitches taken in his face and right around his nose area. So in 1987, he was lucky to be able to pitch. He had a seatbelt on, and he said that's what saved his life.
He works on Strawberry here with 2 out and the count 0-1. Bases empty, 5th inning. Dunne has retired 6 in a row, and the count is 1-1. Jim Leland, and so much of the success that this club has enjoyed can be attributed to Leland and what he has brought here. Leland, one of those guys who just spends eons in the minor leagues. Bus rides and fast food joints and bad hotels and motels. And then he gets a job coaching in the big leagues under Tony La Russa with the White Sox, and finally gets a chance to manage here. Foul back, and the count 3-2. So when it comes time to talk about people who paid their dues, I'll just look up Leland's record with Lakeland and Jamestown and Rocky Mount and Montgomery and Clinton, and so on and so on.
It's so satisfying to see somebody do that, pay their dues, and then be part of a successful franchise. There are other sides of that coin.
Strawberry draws the walk. So Darrell gets on with 2 out. Dunne has now walked 4 and also hit a man. He has struck out 1. And McReynolds is the batter. Keith Hernandez in uniform, but of course on the disabled list, and that's where he'll be for a while. In fact, Keith was telling us before the game they want to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. He's really not taking any treatment.
Imagine one of the reasons for that is that such a massive injury, of course, they're one of the biggest muscles in your body, that treatment is not really going to help it. I think he's worried about the long-term residual effect, scarring, loss of elasticity. Not that he runs that fast, but it could hurt his defensive play down the road a couple of years. Not to mention this year, of course.
Two down, Strawberry at first base. Blocked by LaValliere. 1-0.
I've always wondered, that was a good play by LaValliere, but the breaking ball catchers are anticipating the ball in the dirt. So the breaking ball, it's more routine to block a ball like this. Actually, that's not good technique. The ball, fortunately, hit the left shin guard of LaValliere, left the trap door open. But I look at Kevin McReynolds' shoes, and you see that he has that turf shoe on, and I'm amazed at Major League hitters being able to plant that right foot and really turn on that shoe. That's a shoe designed especially for the artificial surface. There's no spike, and you don't get the leverage of coming off that right foot.
You would think that normally he would wear a different shoe hitting in that shoe in the outfield.
Rusty Staub used to do that. One turf shoe and one spike shoe on his left foot.
We are talking about one of the premier hitters of all time, and at least one of the premier hitters I ever faced. He could hit, yes. Get the idea that he put a lot of thought behind what he did when he got to the plate, too.
I wonder what shoeless Joe Jackson would have done.
Quit.
Strawberry goes. The pitch is low. The throw is right there, but not in time. And the ball comes out of Lean's glove anyway. Darrell getting a good jump.
Feeling number 15 on the year. So not only can he hit for power, he can steal a base if you have to. Sets up a possible scoring position for the Mets. See the throw right into Strawberry. Interesting to see whether they would have called him out, tag him up on the body. The throw almost beats him. Right there, he's out.
Yes, sir.
Lean holds the ball.
Charlie Williams waited and obviously made the proper call.
Inside, ball 3 now, 3-0. Another look.
As he looks, he follows the ball. Talking about Charlie Williams. Lean tries to catch the ball and tag him. Actually, if the umpire prematurely calls him out, you could call an error on that ball because Lean should have made the tag, but didn't. But with no call, you usually don't get an error.
McReynolds getting the green light on a breaking pitch, 3-0, and it's 3-1.
What you want to do with the count 3-1 is get a good pitch to hit. Kevin didn't do that. So it's now 3-1. Still don't know how you can get any leverage with those types of shoes.
And McReynolds is on. So that's another walk, number 5, given up by Dunne. And again, we mentioned it earlier, his only complete game this season against the Phillies on the 11th of June, and he walked 10. And Ray Miller, Jim Palmer's former pitching coach and the former manager of the Minnesota Twins, and now the Pirate pitching coach, goes to the mound.
One of Ray's, in fact, Ray had a T-shirt made up when I was with the Orioles, and Ray was in Baltimore, and it said, "Work quickly, throw strikes, and change speeds." Well, Dunne has worked quickly. He has not thrown strikes. He has changed speeds, but ineffectively, because he hasn't been able to really get his breaking ball over, not to mention the fork ball or the fastball. Now, this is the story of Mike Dunne this year, not the effective pitcher he was last year, where he was control pitcher.
And you saw the bullpen, no action there. Dunne had retired 6 straight prior to walking Strawberry and McReynolds back-to-back, and now Gary Carter comes to the plate. Fouled out, and then he got hit on that 0-2 pitch on the elbow. Strike, 0-1.
Be interesting to see Gary Carter. The first time swung at a ball about a foot inside. Last time hit by a pitch with 2 strikes. Let's take a look and see if he expands the strike zone, something he's done for the last month.
1-1.
Sitting on 299 home runs, as we see the graphic right there. Not like 500, it is a substantial amount of home runs, a lot more than I ever hit. Thought about hitting.
Fouled away in the count, 1-2. And especially in a media center like New York, that would have to begin to play on your mind. The streak that Carter has going, 31 games, it's been over a month, as everybody waits for him to finally hit number 300.
He struggled before, but there's usually been a reason: knee surgery or need for knee surgery. Look at the press guide. It seems like almost every other year he's had his knee cleaned out arthroscopically. This year he seems to be healthy.
Got him on a breaking pitch. And the Mets have already left 8 men on base in 5 innings. And at the end of 4 1/2, it's still Mets 1, Pirates 1. On the far left is Mike Diaz, and then you've got John Smiley and Doug Graybeck. Smiley pitching to Jim the other night in Montreal, gave up an unearned run in the 9th inning to cost them a shutout. But look at that mark, 8-4. The same mark for Bob Walk.
10-year, really journeyman pitcher coming through, just having a fabulous. You see him, he's right, yes, without the hat. 16 and 8, those 2 starters, outstanding.
Green starts the bottom of the 5th with a base hit and roars and rolls all the way to the fence. McReynolds plays the carom, and Green has a double.
Take another look. Last time curveballs, this time the fastball, and he just shoots it up the gap. Nobody's playing there. You know he's going to get 2. Let's keep it at that as Kevin McReynolds hits Kevin Elster with the relay throw.
Now, normally in this situation, you'd want the left-hander to try to move the runner to third, but you've got the bottom part of the order. I'd say LaVallier's got to try to drive the run in, not drive him to third. You've got Belliard and Dunne coming up.
And LaValliere drives one to center field. Should be deep enough to get Bream over. Bream tags. Dykstra makes the catch. And LaValliere was trying to drive him in and winds up at least moving him over. So 1 out, and now Belliard comes up. And you always, with a man at third, the number 8 hitter coming to the plate, think about the squeeze.
Flags are up right now. LaValliere was indeed trying to hit the ball hard. He wasn't trying to move the runner over. And I think that's proper technique and good strategy with the bottom part of the order coming up.
Why should you try to do something that you're not capable of doing? As we've said before, the reason he hit 300 last year because he's hit the ball the other way. Of course, Gooden doesn't exactly allow you to go out over the plate and just pull a ball. If you do, it's going to be a weak grounder to second if you hit it at all.
So now Belliard comes up with the infield playing in.
You're right, Al. All sorts of red flags coming up for that squeeze with the pitcher coming up next.
Gooden working out of a stretch. And he swings away and fouls it off, and the count is 0-1. Green at third.
Often it's a word sign with the third base coach, between the third base coach and the runner. Outfield very shallow, properly for Belliard. You saw Lamont, after he gave the sign to Belliard, go to Breen.
He swings away, base hit into center field. The Pirates lead it 2-1.
Tough to pitch on grass. Infield in, all you got to do is make contact. Belliard does that. Big improvement over last year when he was sent out because he couldn't hit enough. Gets a pitch to drives it back up the middle. Hold that infield in, base hit, another runner on base. Well, this is turf ball, this inning.
Now Dunne up there in a bunt situation, but he swings away, and it's a chopper to Elster, who fields, doesn't know what to do with it, and doesn't get anybody. Confusion at second base as to whether he should do it himself or flip to Backman, and instead first and second and one out.
Wally Backman was going toward first base because of the bunt, and Elster didn't know if Backman could get there in time. He was caught in between, as you see, and is late with the throw to first.
Part of being a National League pitcher also is to field your position, also run out a ground ball. If Dunne does not run, they get it out here. But he hustles to first, and Elster's throw is too late. Heads up base running by Mike Dunne.
Stottlemyre to the mound. Pirates on top. 2-1 before this big crowd in excess of 40,000. Three River Stadium. Hopeful their Bucks can make it a 5-game winning streak and shave the New York lead to 3.5 in the East as Barry Bonds is ready to stand in. Strike. 0-1. Two on Bonds.
Story of this ball game, missed opportunity. As you said earlier, the Mets have stranded 8 runners through 5 innings. And this is the first inning that the Pirates have had 2 runners on base. And yet the Pirates are up 2-1. The Bucks have stranded 1.
The 1-2 pitch to Bonds is popped up in foul ground. Gary Carter coming over along with Johnson, and he can't make the catch as it lands on top of the dugout. Paul Runge right over there with him to make sure.
The question is whether, had Carter not jumped up, whether the ball would come down without hitting the dugout. It appeared that it wouldn't have. It would have probably hit the dugout had Gary not jumped up.
I think so. Dunne's grounder, by the way, scored as a fielder's choice. He is at first. Belliard at second. 1 out, 2-1. Pittsburgh on top in the 5th inning. Still a ball and 2 strikes on Bonds.
Right, and if you're watching at home, if you remember the first 2 times, Bonds with 2 fly balls out of the strike zone, he's trying to climb the ladder. Better low ball hitter as you look at his batting with runners in scoring position.
Look how much he's choked up on the bat.
Well, he's going to have to. He's going to keep swinging the balls over his head, and that's what Gooden wants him to do. The one thing that makes Dwight Gooden is that he can usually turn it up a notch or 2 when he needs a strikeout. Criticized because he isn't the Dr. K of old. He may not be able to do it here, but he can. One of these guys that can get a strikeout when he needs it, either with the curveball, which we've seen, or the high fastball.
3-2 now on Bonds.
Such a fine line, though, with a pitcher 95 miles per hour is not to overthrow. You have to throw the ball relaxed and still be able to throw strikes unless the hitter chases it.
I don't think the runners will be running here either.
Like his daddy, he's thrown the strike out a lot. They stay, and he fouls it back.
What determines that is the pitcher and the hitter. Barry Bonds strikes out a lot. Dwight Gooden's a strikeout pitcher. So it's a bad combination to send the runners. You don't want a double play to get you out of the inning.
Bonds, a leadoff hitter, but he has struck out 51 times this season. The runners were not going, and they're still not going, and the 3-2 is high, ball 4. Loaded. Still only 1 out, and Jose Leaned, who is 2 for 2, comes to the plate with Belliard now at third, Dunne at second, and Bonds at first. 1 out, bottom of the 5th inning, 2-1 Pirates. Jose Leaned, who I think possesses more jewelry than the Tower of London. I mean, the Queen would be envious. Look at that. Trying to bring home the crown jewels right here with the bases loaded. 1-0. Gene Lamont, the third base coach. Davy Johnson turning and squirming in the dugout. The infield at double play depth. And it's behind him, and it may have hit him. Lane is acting as if it didn't, and everybody advances. So the Pirates lead it 3-1.
If the ball had hit him, of course the ball is dead. I'm not too sure that Belliard breaking off a third base may have had Gooden throw it lean. That's one of the strategies to prevent the squeeze play. But with the bases loaded, if you hit the batter, Belliard broke off a third. Gooden throws tight to lean. It actually goes behind him. Carter thinks the ball hit him. He doesn't go after the ball. He thinks it's dead. He had to scurry after the ball to hold Dunne at third base.
Actually, it looked like it hit the bat.
And that's what Davy Johnson's going to argue right now.
See the break by Belliard? Maybe Gooden threw the ball behind Lean because of that.
Thinking the squeeze was on, it's the play you make. And now Johnson could be contending that the ball did hit his bat.
That would be the only thing that he could be contending.
Of course, imagine yourself as Paul Runge, the home plate umpire. You're trying to follow the pitches behind the batter. You're trying to ascertain whether he hit him. Take another look. 1-0 pitch. Way behind Jose Lean. Right there, looks like it maybe hits the bat. Goes straight down. But how can Paul Runge? He's down on one knee. Not that he should see it. Possibly maybe getting some help from one of the other umpires.
But sometimes you can hear it, but it's tough to hear it in a park filled with 40,000 people.
Now Carter had a very strange reaction at the tail end of that replay, it looked as if he was about ready to tell Runge it was a foul tip. But in watching that play with our naked eye, I felt that Carter thought, as you surmised, Tim, that Lean was actually hit by the pitch, and that's why he didn't go after the ball. And now Runge's going to ask for some help and gather the umpires. Runge and Bob Engel and Charlie Williams and Tom Hallian will all get together.
That's very difficult to ask for help when the other umpires are so far away.
Sure.
Unless, perchance, Tom Hallian, the third base umpire, had the angle of seeing the ball hit the bat, as Jim said. Sure,
he would have the best angle.
The third base umpire, because the ball was thrown behind Lean, and really he'd have the only angle.
And you have to understand, as we talked about Dwight Gooden, a control pitcher, it's not something that you really think is going to happen as an umpire. So you're trying to look at your designated base or the foul line or whatever, and then you see a batter jump out of the way, and the ball looked like it hit his bat, but we saw it 3 or 4 times.
Talk about that strategy of the squeeze play again. If the pitcher thinks the runner at third is trying to score, one of the defensive strategies is to throw the ball at the hitter, thereby making him go down, clearing the way for the catcher, and to get the runner running in from third in a squeeze and a rundown. That's what I assume Dwight may have been thinking because the ball was thrown behind him.
Absolutely. Again, Lean doesn't know where to go. And normally, if you want to hit somebody, you throw it behind him because he's going to back into it.
Yeah, with the bases loaded, obviously that's not what Dwight Gooden was trying to do.
No, I wasn't surmising that he was attempting to do that. I'm saying basically it's amazing that Lean wasn't hit, because when you do throw behind the batter, your reaction is to go back.
To be that far off the mark, I mean, that ball was 3 feet from the plate. Behind Lean, only a hitter like Lean with his dexterity can get away from a ball like that.
Meanwhile, Belliard's in the dugout. For the moment, anyway, in pencil, he has scored a run. Dunne is at third. And Bonds is down at second, awaiting the results of this conference.
The umpires are handling this the way they should. They're conferring to see if anybody saw something that Paul Runge didn't see.
I think they're taking too much time. You either saw it hit the bat or you didn't see it hit the bat.
Yep.
You can't go on the reaction of Gary Carter. It either hit the bat or it didn't hit the bat. If he says now that it hit the bat, Leland's got a good argument, I think. Why wait that long?
Well, that's what he's told him. There's no question about that. You're right. There's been a longer delay than you'd see in the NFL with the replay equipment.
If Tom Hallian, who in my opinion had the best view of the play, if he runs in and immediately says that ball hit the bat, it's a foul ball, no arguments made about anything.
Right. Except that Timmy, a lot of umpires don't want to do that because they don't want to embarrass the other umpire or show them up. Now, if they're asked, which apparently is what happened, they will volunteer the information, and this is the only way that Paul Runge could be changing his decision.
But why the long discussion?
Exactly. And in a case like that, you're really not showing up your colleague if you're saying, hey, I had a better angle.
No, but they may look at it as
that. Yeah. Especially with the umpire in chief umpiring behind the plate.
I can see that, a few years ago, but nowadays, I think the umpires have to understand oftentimes another umpire will have a better angle. And you're right, if Hallian had seen it initially, he should have said something initially.
I'll tell you, the Mets in their last 5 ball games have played 2 games where the instant replay could come into focus.
The Dykstra play the other day?
The Dykstra play the other day that Harry Wendelstedt apologized on national television on Saturday, which I thought was a terrific thing for him to do, because he admitted that they got the play wrong and said that had they had the opportunity to look at instant replay, he would have changed it. But he's still not for instant replay, and neither am I. But in this particular instance, that would have solved the problem, because as Jim pointed out, I think the ball definitely hit the bat.
Of yours, also yours.
I don't know that that replay was necessarily conclusive, though.
True. Yeah.
But I do agree with the situation in which if one umpire is going to overrule the other, then do it right off the bat.
Right here, Leland's he's arguing for a run.
Yeah, so to speak.
He knows they're going to take one off the board. Runs aren't that easy to come by when you're pitching, when you're playing a team with Dwight Gooden on the mound. Seems pretty cut and dry, though. They said it hit the bat. Let's go back and play baseball.
Why would Bob Engel, the first base umpire who had the worst angle, make the call if indeed he did that?
I would believe he's the crew chief.
Yeah, I said Paul Runge. You're right, Jim. Right. It is Bob.
Right now it's Leland with Engel, who is the crew chief and the first base umpire. We have some natural sound, and what we're trying to hear is a ball kicking the bat. Well, that was very inconclusive.
You heard the thump against the padding behind home plate.
But you also heard Leland, too.
Yes, sir.
Well, the score, if this decision is changed, it goes back to 2-1. The count goes to 2, actually 1-1.
Yeah.
Leland with Runge and with Engel.
Jim Leland certainly got a good argument. He's saying Bob Engel said no and Paul Runge said no.
So he must mean Hallian said yes, the third base umpire, who is not involved in this discussion at the moment. One of the things Leland may have been saying is that Davy Johnson saw the replay on the big screen here at Three Rivers Stadium and then went out and argued about it. It's a little dangerous, but it's an interesting conversation.
At this point, your major concern if you're Davy Johnson is my pitcher's been out there for about 10 minutes and has not thrown a pitch to a live batter. You can see Dwight Gooden warming up with Gary Carter, but that is not the same as throwing to a batter.
Meanwhile, Mike Dunne, who is on base, has taken the opportunity to go back and sit down in the dugout as he awaits the result of all of this. The score is 2-1. Pirates, assuming that they have ruled that ball was foul tipped for a strike, and when play resumes, Lean will be back at the plate with the bases loaded, 1 out, and a count of 1 ball and 1 strike. Meanwhile, the one umpire not at all involved has been Charlie Williams, who was the second base umpire, and Gooden will now go to the dugout. As long as Leland is continuing the argument, Dwight Gooden figures he might as well go down and spend a moment on the bench. And the umpires here giving Leland a lot of rope. This is a very long argument.
Well, the point is, if they have changed their mind, which they obviously have, well, let's get on with baseball. Is Leland going to be able to talk him out of it? You didn't see that? I don't understand the length of this argument.
Well, the other alternative is to protest the game, but it's still the umpire's judgment as to whether the ball hit the bat or not.
It's not a rule decision.
We'll see if a protest is in order. Usually an umpire will call the PA announcer. But it's still umpire's judgment as to whether the ball hit the bat or not.
Yeah, good luck winning this one. It's been 13 minutes since the wild pitch. If this happened in the NFL, they'd be screaming like crazy to get rid of the replay rule.
Might be a protest being lodged right here.
Again, just a formality, basically. It will be announced to the crowd. But it's a judgment call. And there's no way you win one of these babies. With the protest, that is.
Not with an umpire's judgment. If there's a dispute in the rules, then you might win it.
So now Gooden to warm up again. And the runners will go back with Belliard, who had scored for the moment, returning to third and enjoying a light moment with Howard Johnson. Dunne now back at second. And Barry Bonds at first. The bases remain loaded. 1 out, 1 ball, 1 strike. And Jose Lean ready to stand it again. Now the crowd gets a little rowdy back to first. And the delay is even longer. So a delay that will amount to more than 15 minutes. Charlie Williams, I think, is asking for some of the security people to throw somebody out. And sure, there's the reason right there. Once in a blue moon. Well, that was last month, wasn't it? All right, here we go. After that brief intermission. Time for the second half. 1-1 the count on Jose Lean. 1-2 now.
That's amazing that he threw a strike. His last pitch was 3 feet behind him.
See if he stays with the fastball, too. Lean, a propensity to hit the ball to the right side.
Try to, and down he goes. So instead of a 3-1 lead, it's still only 2-1 and 2 out. And Andy Van Slyke comes to the plate. Dwight Gooden picks up his second strikeout. Andy Van Slyke has gone to right field twice. He flied to Strawberry, who turned it into a double play in the first inning and a double in the fourth.
So those numbers, they also speak a lot about his power. Last year, 21 home runs, 3 off lefties, 18 off righties. This year, 11 home runs, 2 off lefties, 9 off righties. As you look at some of the debris thrown to indicate their displeasure with the umpire's decision.
Lenny thinks it's him.
Don't take it personally.
Something I'm wearing? Huh, I just got my uni on. What is it?
I can't figure out what Charlie Williams is pointing to. Maybe it's the door? Oh, it's a popcorn box. Where is that? No, that's not in center field. I don't know where that shot was coming from. Let me say, hey, nobody's home. What do you want me to do? Now, where is that? That's in right center out on the track.
Well, of course, he can't.
Right field.
Van Slyke's not going to be bothered with something in right center. His vision is to Dykstra, and Lenny still doesn't know what Andy is worried about, and neither do I.
Yeah. And Ron Darling can settle back and just enjoy it as the pitch gets the outside corner for a strike, 0-1. Bases loaded, 2 down. Bottom of the 5th inning. 2-1 Pittsburgh. And it's 0-2.
You notice Gooden started Van Slyke off with the same pitch that he hit for a double the last time. That's good policy.
Except that it was, instead of being down and in, it was down and away, which makes a big difference with a breaking ball. I think he'd like to get him out off the plate in on the fastball up.
Yep, I agree.
Of course, when you get ahead 0-2, it gives you a lot of avenues to go down, and that curveball down and away just off the plate, pretty effective pitch, too, if you get it there.
To center field and right to Dykstra. And so in a very controversial 5th inning, the Pirates settle for just 1. Lead 2-1 into 5, and we'll be back to Three Rivers after this word from your local station. Jim Leland watching his team lead 2-1, feeling they should be leading at least 3-1, playing this game under protest for what it's worth. It may be moot. Of course, it is moot if the Pirates win. And chances are, as we've explained, in a situation like that where it's umpire's judgment, you're not going to win it anyway. And Davey Johnson, who's watched his team come in here after losing 3 out of 4 to the Cubs over the weekend and holding on to a now precarious lead in the National League East as we move on to the 6th inning in Three River Stadium. And the bottom of the order coming up for the Mets as you look at Keith Hernandez and Bill Robinson and Kevin Elster, who is on deck. Johnson will lead off, then Elster and Gooden. And next week we'll be in Los Angeles on the 4th of July, so plan to spend part of your holiday with us as the St. Louis Cardinals take on the National League West leading Los Angeles Dodgers on Monday Night Baseball at 8 Eastern Time, a week from tonight. Howard Johnson to lead things off in the 6th inning, struck out and grounded out. Comes up hitting .239. Mike Dunne, and it's been a long time since he's been on the mound. What a go.
What does that do to you, Jim, when you're out that long, 15 minutes?
It helped White Gooden, but usually if you're struggling, it can make it even a little bit harder because of a confidence level as you see him miss for ball 2. 5 innings, 8 base runners, only 3 hits but 5 walks, so he's been struggling all night long, has not been ahead of the hitters, hasn't been able to really, he's used all his pitches but not effectively.
Popped up, LaValliere flips the mask aside and puts it away. One away here in the 6th inning, and Kevin Elster is the hitter.
It seems to him what he's tried to do all night is establish that sinker, and he hasn't been able to do it. There he goes 2-0, goes with that 4-seam fastball, which is the contrary. You hold a little bit differently than that sinker, and he gets a pop-up. But he's not the type of pitcher that is trying to go out there and establish that pitch early in the count. So he's had a pitch from behind all night and has been able to do it.
Elster spins one down. It's a fair ball, fielded by Breen, and he wins the race to the bag. Sid Breen momentarily thought about flipping to Dunne and had to pick it up, and it's not that easy a play because that ball had a lot of English on it going down the line.
What makes the play difficult as you see the ball snake its way over the bag is that he doesn't toss it to Mike Dunne, and now it becomes a foot race. And you can see how close it is. Just gets the corner as Elster gets right in front of the bag.
That ball actually started out in foul territory and came back in fair and then squirted back over the bag. Weird.
Send that ball to Bart Giamatti.
It's one of those ones that Dennis Eckersley would like to throw.
So says Bobby Valentine of the Texas Rangers.
If it had come out off of Howard Johnson's bat, we'd have really had something. 1-0 to Gooden. In there, 1-1.
Well, that age-old question, is it the bludgeon or is it the spheroid?
That is the age-old question.
A lot of people find it is.
Foul away, and the count 1-2.
Kevin Slow getting out of the box. Elster, he thinks the ball's foul and doesn't really start running until he sees it squirt back over the baseline. It's a normal reaction. You think the ball's foul, and then you say, uh-oh, I hit it off the end of the bat. It's going to skewer back into fair territory.
Popped up. Green will make the play in foul ground, and that delay is no problem for Dunne, because the Mets are done in the sixth, and it's still 2-1 Bucks. In Pittsburgh, Monday Night Baseball, the Mets and the Pirates. Al Michaels with Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver, 2-1 in favor of the Pirates as they go to the bottom of the sixth inning. And Jim Leland's Pirates to send up Bobby Bonilla to lead things off.
You know, I think Jim Leland's wearing a wedding ring. How many managers in the major leagues wear their wedding ring in uniform? Jim just got married the day after Thanksgiving to Katie O'Connor. She worked here with the Pirates, and his brother Tom, a priest, performed the ceremony. And after the ceremony, he said, "You may kiss the bride." They both gave each other high fives and a little kissing.
That's great.
That might be a first. A high five. I love it.
Bobby Bonilla in the bottom of the sixth inning. The 2-0 pitch is taken high for ball 3. 3-0 the count. In there, the count 3-1.
Well, Valier with a great line. He said Bonilla's only weaknesses is that his home runs from the right side go 450 feet, and they only go 420 from the left side.
You see what he just did? Cocked himself on the helmet, saying, "Man, look at this. 3-1. How could I not be on that baby?"
Well, he was on a Sphinx fight.
Yeah.
Of course, he was on that pitch. He's just irritated he didn't hit it.
And it's a high fly ball to left field. And McReynolds will take care of it. And Bonilla will mutter to himself all the way back to the dugout. 1 away.
One of the reasons is that when you're a Dwight Gooden, you know Bonilla can hit home runs. He's hit 15 on the year. You know he can hit for an average. But you're going to take a little bit off because you don't want to walk the leadoff hitter. You get that pitch, you foul it off, and you hit yourself in the head with the bat. Very simple game. I mean...
This is one for this week in baseball right here.
They said this guy has a great disposition. Never know if he's 0 for 4 or 4 for 4.
Coles takes a strike. That's the first time this season somebody got hit in the helmet and it didn't provoke a bench-clearing brawl.
At least he hit himself with the handle of the bat, not the barrel.
Yeah. Oh, Bobby's no dummy. 1-1. Coles has much taken over on an everyday basis, as that would illustrate. He had been sharing time with R.J. Reynolds. Carter comes all the way back and has no play. And we congratulate R.J. Reynolds and his wife on the birth of their twin baby girls on Saturday.
His wife, Yolanda, giving birth to Erica and Jessica Reynolds.
In the American League, Boston leading Cleveland in the 7th. Baltimore out in front of Toronto in the 9th. The Tigers, trying to maintain the top spot in the AL East, lead the Yankees 4-1 in the 9th inning. Angels lead the Twins 11-4 in the 5th. White Sox and Royals 1-1 in the 8th. Texas, Seattle just underway. Milwaukee and Oakland very shortly. And Coles has gone on strikes. Breaking pitch, down he goes. 3 strikeouts for Dwight Gooden. And Green comes up.
Well, they call it Uncle Charlie, but look where it is. Curveball. Outer part of the plate, knee high. All you can really do as a hitter sometimes is just look at it. And he did.
Green struck out and doubled. And Johnson has a play, and Howard makes the catch to retire the side. So that's 5 straight retired now by Gooden. And you can ring up 6 here in Pittsburgh. The Bucks on top, 2-1.
Ladies and gentlemen.
ABC's Monday Night Baseball is brought to you by Stroh's and Stroh Light. Now you're talking good times, and Stroh's is spoken here. Seventh inning at Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh. The Pirates on top, 2-1. And the Mets will be sending up the top of the order, and Dykstra, Backman, and Magadan. Mike Dunne on the mound in quest of his 5th victory of the season. He's trying to beat the Mets for the first time in his brief career. Remember when he came up and made his major league debut, you talk about a supporting actor role. He pitched in front of a full house at Shea Stadium the night Dwight Gooden came back from drug rehabilitation. Dykstra hits a drive to center field, deep but playable for Van Slyke. 390 foot out off the bat of Dykstra. 5 straight now set down by Dunne, who has not given up a hit since the 3rd inning, and only 3 in the game. National League update. Cubs won at Wrigley this afternoon. Sutcliffe the winner. San Diego leads the reeling Reds 9-2 in the 8th. Giants lead Atlanta 8-4 in the 8th. Dodgers 2-0 over Houston in the 8th. That's Sean Hilligus, who they just brought up pitching for L.A. And St. Louis leading Montreal 2-0 in the 7th inning. Strike, 0-1.
You mentioned a precarious 4.5-game lead by the Mets over the Pirates, and that's exactly what it is because of the way the Mets offense has been scoring runs lately. The Dodgers, on the other hand, are only 3.5 ahead of Houston, but they have really been playing good ball. They've won 8 out of 9, and even though they're a game less ahead of their division rival, the Houston Astros, they really have a charge going, I'll tell you.
And we'll have the Dodgers next week on the 4th of July, so we hope you'll make your holiday plans and leave a little time for Monday Night Baseball. The Dodgers and the Cardinals next week in L.A. Three and 1 the count. Well, the Mets pitching, of course, with David Cohn, and there's Howard Johnson.
Oh, 9-1 on the year. Pretty good game plan the Dodgers have. Just play real well when you play the people within your division.
3-2. Did you see that interview that Cohn did the other day with David Letterman? That was a classic. I love the one question: who weighs more, Tom Lasorda or Marge Schott?
Cohn said it's neck and neck.
Yeah. Backman draws the walk. Second time Wally has walked tonight. And the Pirate bullpen will get busy for the first time tonight with Barry Jones on your left and Bob Kipper, the left-hander, on your right. Of course, when they get down to the end, they have Gott and Jeff Robinson. And I know in talking with Jim Leland before the game, Robinson working extensively in Montreal over the weekend. He would like Gott to close it out, at least tonight. Magadan. 1-0. Sam Perlazzo, the Mets third base coach, sending out the sign.
I think regardless of what happens to Magadan, you may see Bob Kipper pitch to Darryl Strawberry.
In fact, I think if he goes another ball on Magadan, you might bring in Kipper right now to maybe get the Mazzilli to hit, set up a double play, and might not have to face Strawberry this inning. And the reason I say that, Dunne has struggled so much tonight, even though over the last few innings he's been successful.
And the count is 2-0. Dunne has walked 6, hit a man. LaValliere will now perhaps buy a little bit more time as he started toward the mound. Strawberry waits on deck.
You're right, Jim. Nope, it's Ray Miller. Or is it Jim?
It's Miller.
I recognize that walk.
And there was a little trot there, too. The best indication of a pitcher not coming out of the game is when a manager or pitching coach would trot out to the mound. And he trotted about 6 steps when he left the dugout. In fact, I don't think in all the years I've watched baseball I've ever seen anybody trot to the mound and make a pitching change. Seen a few guys trot off the mound.
Well, see, that's you were. Of course, you've been in baseball a long time, but before the dish, I saw Weaver on the dead run a few times to get a guy out of there.
Not you, of course.
Oh, never.
No.
Never.
2 balls, no strikes to count.
Earl probably watching with Mariana tonight from Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Nothing else to do down there. Right.
Ball 3, and the count 3-0.
And I'm sure Ray Miller suggested to Mike Dunne it would be nice, it would behoove you to throw some strikes to Dave Magadan. Because last time we saw a base hit by Magadan on a hit and run, actually after a fly out to right field.
Taking all the way, and it's 3-1.
Of course, that's one of the great situations of hitting before a hitter like Strawberry. You know that the pitcher, if he had his druthers, would not want to pitch to Strawberry without pitching to Magadan. So you can get some pretty good pitches to hit. Whether he'll be swinging or taking is another thing.
Pirates leading 2-1, 1 out, 7th inning. Backman at first. And while he goes, the pitch is ball 4. And the Mets now with runners at first and second and 1 out. And Strawberry coming up.
No way Leland allows Dunne to pitch to Strawberry. No way. He hasn't made a move yet, has he?
Please come out of there.
Mike struggling. Darryl getting up there in a hurry. I am really surprised. What's Kipper warming up for if it's not to pitch to Strawberry?
Well, he's elected to stay with him with Strawberry standing in, 2 on and 1 out, and it's low for a ball, and the count is 1-0. Dunne has now thrown 101 pitches tonight. Barry Jones is the right-hander, and there's Kipper just observing. And it's 2-0. I guess one thing Leland is perhaps thinking is he has the lead. Chances are Strawberry's turn is going to come up again.
Yeah.
Maybe he wants to save the lefty for a 9th inning situation.
By the time Darryl comes up again, though, you've got Gotten in there, and he's your short man. Kipper, we are told, is that left-hander that you'd bring in to face 1 or 2 left-handed hitters.
So Dunne, and again, we mentioned it before, he threw a complete game, his only one of the season this year, with 10 walks along the way. Tonight he has the lead, and he has walked 7. And now he has walked 8 as Strawberry walks to load him up. Miller on the phone to the bullpen, and now McReynolds coming up with the bases loaded and 1 out. So Backman, the tying run, is now at third. The go-ahead run, Magadan, is at second. Strawberry is at first, and Dunne's going to be yanked by Leland. And he wants the right-hander, Barry Jones, to come in to face Kevin McReynolds with 1 out and the bases loaded in the 7th inning. So despite 8 walks in 6 1/3, Dunne still stands to win the game if the Pirates can hold on, and they lead it 2-1.
It's a baseball explosion on the 4th of July. The St. Louis Cardinals head west to take on the front-running Los Angeles Dodgers. Celebrate the 4th next week with ABC's Monday Night Baseball.
That's the back of a clipboard in the Pirate dugout, and Jim Palmer talked about Ray Miller's credo before: work fast, throw strikes, change speeds. Well, Mike Dunne had a few problems throwing strikes, and there is a very odd-looking line. 6 1/3 innings with 3 hits. Thus far, 1 run, but he's responsible for the 3 men on base. 8 walks, and Barry Jones out of the bullpen to face Kevin McReynolds, who lit Doug Drabeck up last Tuesday night at Shea Stadium with the bases loaded for a grand slammer. In there for a strike, and the count 0-1.
They had Jones, as you take a look at Kevin McReynolds. Home run off Jones last year. Jones had about 95 miles per hour up in Montreal over the weekend, so he does throw hard, lost a lot of weight, and much more effective this year than last.
1-1. Dunne comes out of the game. Dunne can win it, he could lose it, or have nothing to do with it. They lead 2-1. But the Mets have the bases loaded and 1 out in the 7th inning. Pirate infield back. And they get the ground ball. Belliard to lead to Green, double play. And Dunne can still get the W. At the end of 6 1/2, Pittsburgh 2, the Mets 1. Barry Jones comes out of the bullpen, gets Kevin McReynolds to hit into a double play. Thus we go to the bottom of the 7th, still 2-1 Bucks.
Taylor-made double play. The only thing that makes this close at all is the aggressive running by Strawberry. You can see him bearing down on Lean, but Lean, who's got great vertical leap, doesn't have to leap and just makes a perfect throw to end the inning and keep the score 2-1. McReynolds makes it close by running hard. If you hit that kind of ground ball, you better run hard.
And the reaction in the dugout, Dunne, now they can really afford to shake his hand. Sort of shaky when a guy comes out, bases loaded, 1 out. You don't know what to do with him. But he then accepts the plaudits and stands to win it if the Bucks hold on. LaValliere, Belliard, and Jones here in the bottom of the 7th inning. One and one.
Mike in a 3 for 33 swoon, but one thing, when you're catching well and you're catching winning pitchers and winning ball games, there's still a great deal of satisfaction to get out of playing every day, regardless of how you're going with the bat. Your first responsibility as a catcher is to handle the pitching staff, call games, and whatever you can produce with the bat is fine. Rarely do you find a guy like Gary Carter who has contributed so much offensively over his career. Or a guy like Ted Simmons or Johnny Bench.
Carlton Fisk. He can do it at both sides of the plate. And they're happy with LaValliere, mainly because, as you said, managerial ability. Calls a great game.
2-2.
Pretty good stats. As he goes to a full count, I really think over the next month it's really going to test the Mets pitchers, because without Hernandez they are going to struggle offensively.
And LaValliere draws the walk. Second time he has walked. Third given up by Gooden in the game. And Rafael Belliard comes up.
Interesting conversation about the batting cage. They said, well, if the Mets are the best team in baseball, which a lot of people think, then how can one player being out affect them that much? And I said, that's what the word team means. I mean, it's a team game. You just don't win because of Strawberry or McReynolds or Carter. You need all those cylinders clicking.
And Hernandez had so many elements to add to a ball club. Defense, offense, leadership, everything.
Want to know, Sid Fernandez right there. He'll pitch tomorrow night. Talking things over with Bobby Oviedo.
Two pitchers that have pitched pretty well but don't have the winning records to show for it. It's amazing. We talked about the fact that Gooden doesn't hold runners on. It won't really affect this situation because LaValliere doesn't run, but Fernandez with the same problem. Very low, slow delivery. The people in the National League have caught up with that. They'll bunt on him, steal on him. Now, if you're scoring a lot of runs, that doesn't really affect the outcome of a game that often.
Not a real surprise either here, Jim, that Belliard's not bunting. You have Jones on deck and nobody's warming up for the Pirates, so you're not going to bunt LaValliere to second base for the pitcher to hit, even though you do have Barry Bonds in the hold.
And they let Belliard swing away before in a situation where they might have thought about squeezing, and he delivered. What right now is the difference in the game, the base hit that made it 2-1. Belliard, he would be the one weak link in the lineup, certainly offensively. And there's been a little bit of speculation in Pittsburgh. They can fantasize about it. The one guy who might be available is Cal Ripken in Baltimore. He's been the subject of extensive trade rumors. And wouldn't he fit in nicely to the Pirate lineup, or anybody's lineup for that matter, but especially in Pittsburgh. Fouled away. I asked Sid Thrift about it before the game, and Sid basically said that he just felt a guy like Ripken would cost you too much and he wouldn't be willing to do it. But then again, when you ask a general manager about a rumor, I mean, what is he going to tell you? Yeah, I'm trying to get him, or here's what I'd give up for him. You really never know what's going on behind the scenes. That's not to say they're looking to get Ripken. Ripken is a man who could be available. And no shortstop has played in the All-Star game, no Pirate shortstop in 20 years. Gene Alley, the last to do it. For shortstop was the spot represented here for many years by, or a few years anyway, by Mario Mendoza of the Mendoza line.
Dick Rose, the only most valuable player as a shortstop in Pittsburgh history back in 1960.
And speaking of recent history, almost 5 years when you throw out the opener that the Pirates have drawn this many people, 41,489. Right to Strawberry. So Belliard is gone. LaValliere remains at first base. And Barry Jones will be coming to the plate. This is a big night, make no mistake about it, in the resurgence of the Pirate franchise, because basically given up for dead 3 years ago, and the change of ownership and the late mayor, very instrumental in keeping the team here and Thrift coming in, and the turnaround in the standings, and then coming off a 4-game sweep in Montreal and on national television. This is more than your everyday occurrence in the Steel City. Barry Jones up there to bunt, fouls it away, 0-1.
You have to go all the way back to 1983, the last time the Pirates swept a 4-game series. But Jim Leland said very simply when they started the season, we want to build on what we were able to do last year, where they won 27 out of the last 38. We want to reestablish our rapport with the fans, and 41,000 certainly goes a long way to do that.
And I know our affiliate here in Pittsburgh began its primetime evening with a half-hour special in regard to the renaissance of baseball in Pittsburgh. As Jones lays it down, Gooden will go to second, gets the out there, and back on to first, not in time. So they're able to take care of LaValliere, a slow runner.
You said it so well when you talked about revival of teams that everybody is saying are going to move, or the franchise is in a demise. He said it usually is definitely something that you can compare to their winning percentage. And this is so true here. They have an exciting young ball club, good young pitching staff, good young ball players that are exciting to watch. Can steal, can make great defensive plays, and have some home run power. What more can you ask for?
There's no question. As a parallel, you go back to the 70s, the San Francisco Giants. People forget about it now, but they were conditionally sold to a group in Toronto. This was before the Blue Jays came in as an expansion team. The Minnesota Twins had enormous problems, and they underwent the ownership change. Here you had last year the Giants drawing a club record, and the Twins, of course, winning a world title, drawing extremely well this year.
Add one more to that list, the Houston Astros in 1986. Rumors about going to Washington.
Right.
They end up winning the division, a remarkable league championship series, and baseball as well in Houston.
And crazily enough, craziness of craziness. Remember in 82 and 83, people were talking about the Cincinnati Reds when they had those 2 terrible seasons, and there was some talk about the fact that the Reds could possibly leave Cincinnati. As Bonds goes down on strikes. So the 7th inning is history, and we'll go to the 8th, still 2-1 Pittsburgh. Start the 8th inning with Gary Carter facing Barry Jones. And the count 0-1. Carter, Johnson, and Elster. Barry Jones, who came out of the pen to get McReynolds to hit into a double play to end a 7th inning threat, is even now as Carter at a ball and a strike. 2-1 Pirates, who would close to within 3.5 with a victory. And the Cubs would be only 6 back. It's sharply to third, playing near the line is Bonilla. Throws him out. One away. The Mets do not have a hit since the 3rd inning when McReynolds singled to drive in their only run.
Converted from right field last year to third base. Knows he has plenty of time. Breaking ball up the strike zone and just fires to first. Carter doesn't run that well. Out easily. But their philosophy over here was that why go out and trade for guys when we probably have some guys that can move around, play different positions. They bring Bonilla from right to third and put Darnell Scholes out to right field, and they got a couple of players that can not only hit but play defensively pretty well.
Howard Johnson takes low, ball 1.
And Leland says if he can't play third, the worst we'll have is a first baseman outfielder that can hit. Switch hitter. Such problems.
2-0 the count. Tim Tuffle riding the pines again with Mookie Wilson. To center field. Coasting over Van Slyke. 2 down. And it will bring up Lee Mazzilli to bat for Kevin Elster. So Davy Johnson goes to the bench with 2 out and the bases empty in the 8th inning.
Interesting point you brought up earlier, Tim. This has been a game of lost opportunity for the Mets. They left 8 on early in the ball game, and then last inning the double play by McReynolds. And also when they get 2-0 pitches or hanging breaking balls, and like in this inning, they missed them.
Yeah, you don't have to have men on base to miss opportunities. Hitting situations, you can see the hitters are really pressing at the plate. They're fouling back 2-0 pitches, 3-1 pitches, 1-0 pitches when the advantage is in their favor. And you cannot capitalize on those things, just like you can't capitalize on a situation with runners on base. And that's what has been the story of the Mets offense in June. What success they've had has come from the pitching staff.
Mets have left 10 men on tonight. They have 3 hits. They've drawn 8 walks. There's also been a hit batsman, but 1 run. Mackey Sasser is out on deck. He would bat for good if Mazzilli gets on. 2 out, bases empty, 2-1 Pirates in the 8th. 1 hopper, and it gets by Lean out into right center field. And so Mazzilli is on with what will probably be scored as a base hit. And that will at least get Gooden out of the game, because Mackey Sasser will come up to hit for Dwight.
Batting for Dwight Gooden, number 2, Mackey Sasser.
Lean playing deep, and he tries to make the play, one of those in-between hops. That could go as an error, but the ball really scalded, and Lean not charged with an error. Base hit for Mazzilli.
So Gooden is done for the night. And Dwight, who was 8-1 last time against the Pirates, pitched well enough to win in most situations, giving up a total of just 2 runs in 7 innings of work, but he's on the short end right now. And Barry Jones, who was a teammate of Mackey Sasser's this spring at Brayton, and will now face him.
Excuse me, I'll visit to the mound by Ray Miller, the pitching coach, just to go over the basic scouting reports. As you look at bullpen, looks like Jim Gott down there, who has been their stopper, as you said. Jeff Robinson with an effective win yesterday. Gott will be the closer tonight, if that's the case.
I'll tell you, Alan, your point about the left-hander being used, maybe in the 9th inning, you've got Wally Backman coming up, and Dave Magadan and Darryl Strawberry. So the move that Leland made was indeed the right move in the 7th inning, because now you can use Kipper in a deeper situation to pitch to more hitters.
And that was Bob, who was up in the pen.
Yeah.
1-0 the count on Mackey Sasser. With a tying run, Mazzilli at first base, and 2 down. Toward the middle, and that's a base hit. Mazzilli round second, and he'll go to third. And so the Mets have runners at first and third with 2 down, and Dykstra coming up.
Add Dykstra to that group, too. I would imagine we'll see Bob Kipper. But, of course, I said that with Darryl Strawberry the last time.
We've been waiting for a while.
Well, the difference with the 2 closers that they have, Jeff Robinson, and if you look at Gott on the left and Kipper on the right, is that with Robinson's great split-fingered fastball, he doesn't really matter who he faces. There's no difference between right-hand and left-handers. We have a pinch runner, Keith Miller, running down at first base. But in this situation with Gott, you might have to think about the left-handed, right-handed situation. Keith Miller.
Here comes Leland now. And he's going to the bullpen for Gott. So Gott will come on. Dykstra will stay in with runners at first and third, 2 gone in the 8th, and we'll be back in Pittsburgh after this word from your local station. Well-worn cap. That baby has not been blocked in a while or sent out to the cleaners. And he'll try to take care of the Mets with 2 on and 2 out in the 8th inning, and Len Dykstra coming to the plate.
He can be overpowering. 34 innings, along with that 4-2 record and the 8 saves, but 33 strikeouts. Amazing story. Got him from the Giants. Came out of the rotator cuff surgery at the end of '86, and in '87 pitching early in the year for San Francisco, and then Pittsburgh. This year, one of the closers here in Pittsburgh.
Kind of amazing how they got him, too, because he was supposed to be part of the Don Robinson, Mackey Sasser deal, except he hadn't cleared waivers from the Giants, and he had to go through the process again. In there for a strike. Al Rosen had to apologize to Sid Thrift because they thought they had waivers cleared on Gott, didn't, and then San Diego had to pass its chance to take Gott to enable Pittsburgh to eventually wind up and pick him up 3 days later.
Saw the breaking ball, good velocity. Of course, he was up in San Francisco. No doubt he throws a split finger after being around Roger Clegg.
And he's ahead here, 0-2.
And remember, we said earlier that Len Dykstra 0 for 20 with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. And it's 0-2 to Lenny here on 2 classy breaking balls.
I pitched against him once, and we had a rain out. I went down underneath 2 days before, rain delay, and I saw this breaking ball, and I said, "Who's that?" They said, "Jim Gott. He beat me 2-0 the next 2 days later." I mean, outstanding slider to go along with good velocity. You got to look for both.
Got him. In more ways than one. Going to the bottom of the 8th inning, the Pittsburgh Pirates on top 2-1. And again, another look at an 0-2 pitch to get Dykstra.
And of course, the definition of a good breaking ball is that the spin is so tight that the hitter doesn't pick it up. And look at Lenny. He is totally full, and that's 3 in a row. You got to have a good one to be able to throw 3 in a row and have a quality hitter like Dykstra have that kind of swing.
Randy Myers now comes out of the pen in relief of Gooden to try to keep it close. White goes 7 innings, gives up 2 runs. And now Jose Lean leads off in the bottom of the 8th inning by fouling one off. Again, it was Lean involved in the controversial play in the 5th inning. This pitch behind him. Subsequently, it was ruled it was a foul tip. After a consultation by all of the umpires, it led to a more than 15-minute delay. It cost the Pirates a run. And the game is being played under protest, but it all will be moot if the Pirates hold on and win it. 0-2 the count. Davey Johnson looking on. His team has Backman, Magadan, and Strawberry due up in the 9th inning. Jim Leland. His good buddy, Tony La Russa, the manager of the A's. La Russa brought him to the major leagues as a third base coach when Tony was in Chicago. And Lean is down on strikes. So Myers strikes out the first man he faces. Gooden tonight in 7th inning struck out 4. And the batter will be Andy Van Slyke. Mets took the early lead in this one. In the 3rd inning, Kevin McReynolds drove home Wally Backman with a base hit. But the Pirates got even in the 4th on a single by Lean and a steal, and then a double by Andy Van Slyke. And the difference in the game right now is that 5th inning double by Breen, who went to 3rd on Lavalier's fly ball. It brought the infield in, and Rafael Belliard hit one through the middle for a single. 1-1.
Well, Belliard, as we said last year, they had 9 shortstops because he didn't hit enough. If there's any illustration that Jim Leland will stay with you, last year Van Slyke had 29 at-bats against lefties without a hit, yet he still played. I mean, I just know we talked about John Shelby, who's having an outstanding year with the Dodgers. He feels that Lasorda is going to put him in there in spite of what he did. In Baltimore, he never knew if he'd be playing 2 days in a row. Van Slyke's here to play, as a lot of the other young Pirates. They have a lot of confidence in their manager.
Broken bat pop-up, and that's Keith Miller, who's come in to play shortstop, making the catch. Miller, who pinch ran for Sasser, staying in the game and hitting 9th. Myers is hitting in the number 8 spot. Bobby Bonilla now 0 for 3, and he comes up right-handed for the first time of the game. As a right-handed batter this season, and Bonilla has power from both sides of the plate. Bobby hitting .327.
In fact, I asked Milton A., the batting instructor, take a look at the All-Star voting. We'll be there in Cincinnati a couple of Tuesdays from now, 2 weeks from tomorrow. I said, is he naturally right-handed or left-handed? He said, I don't know. So I asked Ray Miller the same thing. They said, I don't know. Didn't get a chance to ask Jim Leland, but obviously gives you an idea. The guy swings pretty well when you don't even know what his natural side is.
Base hit with 2 out of the 8th inning. Bobby Bonilla stroking one into left field. 6 hits now for the Bucks. And Cole's coming to the plate.
That's a good time to become a switch hitter. If you don't know whether you're right-handed or left-handed, just say, I'll become a switch hitter. I'll do it both ways.
They said he learned it in the Bronx. Stickball, softball, or sponge ball. I wish I could have thrown a sponge ball when I pitched for the Orioles.
Hard to believe he wasn't drafted out of high school. Took a trip to Scandinavia by Sid Thrift to eventually suggest that Bonilla be signed by the Pirates. And Sid wasn't even working for the Pirates at that time.
I think he was out of baseball.
Yeah.
Hard to believe this guy's about 6'4", 225, 230. Only hit two home runs with the White Sox. Classic example. They expected more. Gave him back for Jose De Leon.
I might add that Bobby just didn't happen to be in Scandinavia. He went over there on a baseball clinic. Group of Americans that went over, and Sid Thrift was in charge of that group. Saw Bobby Bonilla and suggested that the Pirates sign him. And Bobby told me before the game started that all he wanted was a suggestion that he play professional ball. He'd have taken anything. I think he signed for next to nothing.
And he's got a chance now to wind up on the All-Star team. You saw the graphic second in the balloting to Mike Schmidt, who will probably lead in the balloting until he retires. But perhaps the mantle will be passed someday to that man. Bonilla at first base, 2 gone in the 8th. Darnell Cole facing Randy Myers. And where did that one miss?
Darnell was headed for right field.
Yeah. Myers for the dugout. We were going to commercial.
Well, he saw the strikeout to Lean. Of course, Lean swung at 6 balls over his head and then wondered, wasn't it a little bit high as that ball is down the middle of the plate, but Runge thought it was high.
Yeah. I mean, I was halfway to saying we'll be right back after this message.
Well, of course, that is great. You know, you hack at 5 or 6 balls over your head. The umpire calls you out on a high breaking ball, and you complain. And he says, hey, you swung at it, and you swung at the other 5. Why shouldn't I call that a strike? It fooled me, too. And when you can fool alfalfa, you can fool everybody.
The words of the sagacious Palmer.
Oh, yes.
And now we go to commercial. At the end of 8, we think it's 2-1 Pittsburgh. Going to the 9th, and we'll return to Pittsburgh after this word from your local station.
He's a big man.
Yeah, he really
in their
is.
offensive scheme of things, and obviously their defense too.
So things tightened up in the National League East, and next week we'll be at Dodger Stadium to look at the Dodgers. Talked about them earlier. Tonight taking on the Houston Astros. Dodgers after a weekend sweep of the Cincinnati Reds. And before we go out, we'll update you as to the other scores as we start the top of the 9th inning here. Wally Backman to lead off. Backman, Magadan, and Strawberry.
Saw Gene Lamont, the coach, saying, let's, talking to Bobby Bonilla, let's make him hit the ball by you, playing very close at third, bunt situation. Wally, an excellent bunter, lean in at second base. Bream at first.
They just properly moved Bream off the line and moved Bonilla a step toward the line at third. Backman's a left field hitter. If you're going to get anybody the line, you give him the first base or the right field line and play him a little tighter at third.
to save it for Dunne. Gets quickly ahead, 0-2 on Beckman.
Breaking balls, they've all been spectacular. You talk about moving a guy off the line. You can do it when you can make this kind of quality breaking ball right off the corner or on it. Paul Runge, the home plate umpire, thinks it's on the corner, calls him out.
To give you an idea of the action on the pitch, did you see LaVallier's mitt? Whenever that mitt does a little skewer action, that means the action when it makes contact to the catcher's mitt, it keeps spinning. That was a nasty breaking ball. 6 straight strikes from Gott.
Magadan takes a strike. Gott averaging about a strikeout per inning this year.
Interesting to me how the strike zone that was pretty, it was pretty narrow as you look at the graphic. Now you can see why with Robinson, who we didn't see tonight, Gott's throwing bullets and also great breaking balls. Strike zone has gotten a little bit bigger because Gott's been more consistent.
Grounded down to lead. 2 down. That's down to their last down as Strawberry will come to the plate.
If you're wondering if there may be an intentional walk, things that I saw Sparky Anderson do, but not in this situation, you would not put the winning run at home plate.
So 41,000 on their feet at Three Rivers Stadium. The Pirates are trying to win their 5th straight. It would be their longest winning streak of the year and close to within 3.5. Two out, bases empty, 2-1 Pirates.
Stadium?
Yeah.
This is Pittsburgh, Three Rivers, right? I think 1979 was the last time this stadium had this much noise.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Well, these fans came out here to try and believe, and the Pirates haven't let them down. They don't know what to expect. They like what they're seeing.
Either 79 or Bradshaw to Swan. Two out, bases empty. 1-1 the count on Strawberry. Somebody tries to tell you a franchise is dead. Remember this scene. leave some debris. If Strawberry gets on, McReynolds is on deck.
I might have to throw in the breaking ball here, Jim. As nasty as his breaking ball has been.
And he misses low with a fastball, so Strawberry draws the walk. That's the 9th walk drawn by the Mets tonight. They have 5 hits, but the key figure would be 12. 12 men left on base.
Again, as a pitcher, you never like to put the winning run at the plate. Put Strawberry with 17 home runs. You have your druthers. You pick McReynolds. Doesn't always turn out the right way. But it's the way to go when you're talking about statistics and chance.
No balls, 2 strikes, Strawberry at first. 2 out. The Pittsburgh Pirates have won 5 straight. They were 7.5 games back after Gooden beat Dunne last Wednesday, and now they are 3.5 back. And there are the standings. The Pirates trail the Mets by 3.5. The Cubs 6 back, and the Cardinals, Montreal, and Philadelphia. Dunne gets the win. He walks 8 and 6 in the third, picks up the victory. Jones does the job setting up Gott. Gooden takes the loss, and the Pirates beat the Mets 2-1. And our thanks to our crew headed by Kurt Gowdy Jr., Craig Janoff, and Steve Hurd, and Alan Roth, as always, for their information and research. And that's the story from Pittsburgh, where ABC's Monday Night Baseball has been brought to you by Old Milwaukee and Old Milwaukee Light. It doesn't get any better than this. By the heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. And by Diet Pepsi, the undisputed champion. Al Michaels, Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver saying goodnight from Pittsburgh with a reminder that Saturday, Wide World of Sports will have same-day coverage of the Firecracker 400 stock car race and the Bislett International Track and Field Meet featuring the Dream Mile. You'll see it live, except on the West Coast, from Norway. Next week, Monday Night Baseball. Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles will be the site as the St. Louis Cardinals take on the Los Angeles Dodgers at 8 Eastern Time. Stay tuned for ABC's Nightline following your late local news over most of these ABC stations. Tonight's topic will be the Tyson-Spinks fight, which, by the way, has not yet started. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television. The Pirates tonight make it 5 straight as they beat the Mets 2-1.